most competitive. Like, they were relatively one-sided, 7-3, 7-4, 7-3. It was one of those kind of series, right, where, like, you knew who was going to win each map, but it went to all 3 maps, and I felt like it was a really good series, especially the cafe performance we got from Virtus.pro was sensational, but w7m were just clearly better. We get 3 new maps, though, for this particular matchup, though. Clubhouse, Skyscraper, and Border, if required. Virtus.pro defending first up on Clubhouse. It is their map pick as well, Emmy. I was looking at the map veto bans as well, and I'm not going to lie, I really like it for w7m. I think they've actually done quite well out of this. I mean, the fact alone that they've got the Skyscraper in here, which is the hard ban of Virtus.pro. Been a long time since they played that. We'll touch on it more in the second map when we get there. But even Clubhouse, I mean, VP's only like a 2-2, 50% win rate record on this particular map. w7m, 4-1 record on this map. Although admittedly they do ban it quite a lot, but when they do get to play on this, they are quite successful. So I'm very curious to see if the map veto process is going to work out for VP, because I do feel like it has swung in favor of w7m.
In terms of the bans, obviously we find ourselves sort of breaking things down. Capital pretty frequently removed against Virtus.pro. I think it's like the 2nd highest ban percentage of operators that have put into their...
It's also strong on club.
It's strong on club for sure, but maybe it's just the map pool that they sort of play themselves in terms of the sort of depth and the stretch of it. You're looking at heavy play on towards the hard walls itself, the Thatcher versus the Tuberel. They want to try and keep it a little bit classic, a little bit mavericky, a little bit burning their way through, seeing if they can make the usage there, but yeah, instantly dots. I love it. It's one of those little side things, although it's slightly different now. It always looks like the horse logo of Dots currently is like holding the kit like in its mouth. That's just a little fun fact for everybody at home. But it's one of the situational moments, right? Of it takes us back to a classic form of Siege on a classic map.
Yeah.
You have a team that really enjoys that. For Virtus.pro, coming into this sort of game style with these bans, it sort of elevates their history play, their style of play, how they get themselves into it, and it, you know, whether it's something that w7m, obviously they'll be prepared for it, they'll be happy to go to it, everybody knows it, but let's see if it's something that Virtus.pro know just a little better.
The other overarching storyline into this matchup in terms of this group, for Group D, Virtus.pro currently atop the group, 7 points. I mean, if you win this, you're not guaranteed for first, but you're probably 1 foot in the door, because they only play 1 more series after this, which will be tomorrow against Scars. And they would definitely go into that as favorites, win that in any kind of fashion, and you will secure first in the group for VP. That would be a significant start to their campaign at Six Invitational, but they've got to get through w7m, and by no means is that going to be an easy task.
No.
This is a roster fresh off of winning the Montreal Major. Hasn't quite been a super fast start for them. They've only played the 1 series against Oxygen, got over the line 2-1. After losing out on Lair, they responded, 7-5 on Border, 7-3 on Cafe, and they return after their day off yesterday, attacking first up here on Club.
Ooh, there was something that just got taken out on there. I'm not sure if it was stat ready. They obviously burnt the line and got rid of the first bandit battery. They've reapplied the second. It's taken some of the utility. I think it was an exothermic
Well, you got
in the pocket of Dash.
You got 3 hard breaches.
I mean, sure, but at the same time, you know, it's limitation. It's pulling things away. Shepard going for the bandit trick as well. In that sort of situation, it's a bit of a risk, but this is what I mean about the classic playstyle, about how it might be able to operate at some of a sort of cost-spend basis. Now, as the pressure comes around on towards CC, they've been able to clear out some of these spaces. Jacuzzi walls open, but you still have to force the players to move. And the Clash of Always is going to make that a little bit stickier.
Yeah, and speaking of Always, the highest rated player in the tournament so far, 133 EPS, despite being a pretty heavy Clash user as well. So he's still getting fragged despite spending a lot of time with the shield in his face. Minutes ago, Deathmark goes out. Loaded onto Dan. The opening kill though for Joystick, but Dots and Dash find 2 at the exact same moment, and within the span of about 5 seconds, we lose quite a lot of players within the server, and it's all going the way of w7m on the attack. VP's defense just gets absolutely shredded, and the only one left is Always on that Clash. Tries to go for the little 180 flick, but a great start for w7m.
Nice guys, caralho! Vamos, porra!
Strong start and a great take as well. I sort of proposed the question of, right, they've done all the starting work, how do they start getting control? And the answer was, let's just shut it down. That was so quick. They threw themselves in on towards Khan. I think there might have been a drop onto Logi Hatch that didn't quite go their way, but because they had all these options, because they had the gym windows prepped, they had themselves obviously putting pressure on towards Jacuzzi as well, it was just a flood in, and it was something where you could see VP were trying to sort of get themselves a position where they might be a back to a player, but here's the perfect example. They're right in the middle, the core of the hold itself. There's the hop in from the gym window I talked about before as well, and the down player from Logi Hatch, but my word. Is there anything more terrifying than having an entire W7M just charging towards you?
Yeah, I think w7m have done a tremendous job there, but you have to question VP's defense. I mean, you're playing Clubhouse, Gym Bedroom, and you've just been absolutely slaughtered without much of a contest. The clash as well, backed in towards logistics, is, I mean, intriguing because you kind of want the clash on the front line. You want it blocking doorways and positions. Of course, it's in Logi because it can block technically 2 entry points, the hatch drop, and then, of course, push through from Con. Great start for w7m. And again, in terms of, like, touched on what this particular matchup means for VP and that first place in the group, well, it's just as important, if not even more important, for w7m. You win this, not only it's first, then still a realistic possibility, but you're probably then all but avoiding the bottom 2, which is featuring Oxygen and Scars right now. So that would put a bit of that comfort blanket on them. To the Montang this time for Volps. No clash in response for Virtus.pro. Of course, they head down to the basement. Church at Arsenal for the second round as VP scurry on down. All 5 members at the basement level, although Dan on the water does go drone hunting. Finds a couple, 5 drones remain. Really Nitrocell pre-placed by Dan. And blows it.
Up as well, yeah. I mean, it was a very quick breakthrough here, and you're thinking about how some teams will take ages to get the full control here. And Virtus.pro are a team that often, you know, they can play that stressed on the top floor game, rotate back down, but they know w7m are just going to try and cut that in half. Lobin starts the stuffer from the fight up against them, but otherwise they're not quite internal yet. You can see some of the motions of the Virtus.pro players, again, just angling themselves, trying to see where the front of the push is. They've got keen eyes on towards Dash, who's holding on to Blue on the back end. Lobin wants to get themselves above the hatch, but it's this prep work from w7m. It keeps Virtus.pro rotating, changing places, getting. You can see Shepard is now the one that's moving up in towards Dirt. They're pulling themselves maybe the chance at C4 is a bit closer towards the fight itself, where they can do exactly this as always. Has taken up this mantle, this power position down towards the bottom of main stairs, but w7m, they're giving themselves options. The kitchen hatch is maybe the last point of ingress they haven't got from this angle that's pretty easily solved here. The Kai to Pasha not trying to trick against it because...
Well, he's in a position to more so throw the Nitro, I think, for an eventual drop if it comes through. They've actually double stacked in towards Church for that double Nitro. Always can throw bot main. Pasha can, of course, throw towards the default if there is a kitchen drop. And they've also then got just good position. If they go for, say, a moto drop, then they can contest that pretty nicely. At 45 seconds, w7m have still got that Montang, which I think is going to be a threat through Dirt. Volps can get some information. The idea here is, can they clear out Shepard over towards the back of Arsenal? He's going to get the block, of course, with the keeper barrier. That's where the Montang can be quite strong. Volps needs to be aggressive here on the Montang.
Behind him, though, the pinch is coming through. It's going to be pressure over the shoulder. There's Dash and Volps, able to break their way into the site itself, but he's quickly traded out by Joystick, and Pasha kills himself in the chaos. Disaster has struck, so now Always and Joystick have to try and bite their way through to the planter, but the cover is so good. w7m once again encircle and surround Virtus.pro, and they just could not find a route that wasn't contested.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Montang through Dirt was probably their best option. They take it, and they do it well, successfully. Good play from behind the shield of Volps, who, again, has to be aggressive. He's got to be clearing out the keeper barriers and then push through the doorway. He obviously wants to get the plant down. Does actually end up dying. Good recovery mission, though, for w7m to get the the kills. Don't know what happened with Pasha. Just blew himself up in the midst of all the chaos, which is not ideal.
I mean, there were flashes. Maybe they were flashed. Maybe it bounced off with the shield.
We didn't get to see it, so it's hard to comment. But
yeah.
I felt like Virtus.pro were well positioned, but that opening kill from Dash really just changed things up. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That probably makes a bit more sense. It's just, again, that chaos, right?
Yeah,
There's a lot going on. It's all fast-paced, but that's exactly what w7m want to do, as we've seen through now 2 rounds of action. When they hit the site, they do so in sync. All 5 players have a goal, have a mission, and they all execute it very nicely. They all understand what they're going to do. Volp's pushing in on the Monty, Dash playing in from behind, and they get kills, they clear out backside. And to be honest, it's not even like they played into a lot of the conventional tropes of basement on Clubhouse. There wasn't moto pressure. There wasn't even really bot main pressure. It was kind of like kitchen dirt, and that was really about it, but the power of the Montang facilitates that.
w7m off to a bit of a flying start here. Everything has felt active. The motions towards just clearing utility, getting themselves these options as well. You can see them consistently and constantly whirring, and they're playing like a team that's won a major and taken out their opponents in that journey here. The Talon Shields with a slightly deeper deployment so they can play against the wall that they're not going to mess around in. The quick break onto CC is not put against it, but the first and a very early smoke canister, maybe expecting a rush to come through.
Yeah, I love this lineup. So the Volps sends RAU can block off a lot of the sight lines in towards CCTV, both ways, of course, because of the RAUs. You can block off Rafters, you can block off Cash, Red, and you've got the Blitz that can kind of just then send it in. They've got smokes, they'll look for a plant. I'm actually genuinely curious as to see how they're going to execute this, because if it's done correctly, I mean, I don't know if VP's got enough firepower to disrupt it. Only the one Nitrocell on joystick, that's going to be a big factor. One of the ROUs has gone up right now. Here's the push in towards Garage, but up close and without realizing it, was always. Does go for the run out though, looking to compound more onto that kill. Ended up losing his life anyway. In towards the site, Volps will go down. VP have actually been able to do a decent job in finding these kills at the moment where w7m wanted to attack into the site. VP pounced. They actually got moving at the right time, and Loban's by himself. He's not really going to have much of an opportunity to close this one out. And over towards Cash and CCTV, Virtus.pro are going to find their first round.
They were very close to getting the plant secured as well. They had the coverage of, as you said, the RIU. They had the smokes popped off. They were drawing attention elsewhere. There was the coverage on the run out the door, but it was just one VP player paying keen enough attention to be able to remove the player, stop the plant, put the kid in, and suddenly you have to sort of make the decision. Do we pull back, try and reevaluate the take, or do we full send it? It's sunk cost fallacy, and unfortunately the only thing that was sunk was w7m's round. 48 seconds. So, I mean, it's not impossible, but Loban would need a fair few gifts here from Virtus.pro, and it doesn't feel like they're in a very, let's say, charitable mood with their lives. They're happy to let this one play out, and we find ourselves 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, I love the strategy and the idea of w7m. You have to give them credit. They've cooked up something very nice. I do wonder if maybe they should have put more pressure on the Garage side, clear out Rafters first, and then go for the execute. They kind of left too many pieces on the board for VP to still deal with it. And I love that always got aggressive. Over towards Garage, got a really big kill at the moment when w7m probably was starting to push in towards Garage to clear out Rafters, to help with that push into sight. They lose that battle. VP then have the numbers, and yeah, there's the push from always. Talk about timing. Dash is the one that needed to push into Garage. He tried to do that, always meets him at the doorway. And yeah, at that point, it becomes a disjointed attack. You no longer have the Garage control if you're w7m, and you have to still worry about all that cash and top red pressure, for instance. So yeah, really well defended from Virtus.pro. And so far, we're seeing between these two teams, no surprise, Emmy, some really high-quality siege.
Oh, it's all you want, right? As I said, you know, we've had teams overperform, underperform. We've had a lot of mix, but these two teams on a decent day of siege that they can play is going to be competitive. It's going to be quick, it's going to be fast, it's going to be exciting, and that is all we've got. And I really hope it's able to continue the distance because, well, to be honest, why wouldn't it? Both these teams very experienced at playing these sort of longer games on the big stages.
If you had a bag of names of teams at this event that could
shaking the bag up,
win the hammer,
yep,
these two names are in there.
Or each 10.
I'm not putting like an order on anything, but I'm just saying that if you were to say, who do you think could win it? They're both in that contention. They're both in that sort of bracket. I think VP coming into this event is maybe slightly underrated too. Obviously, if w7m having recently taken out the Montreal Major, no such expectations at a similar level to VP. There are high expectations for this roster. They get the kill onto Dan, which is straight into the Zami. Take it off the board. They follow it up with the kill onto Always, who highest rated player of Six Invitational so far coming into this game, begins at a 1-4 stat line. And a start to this fourth round that has w7m licking their lips because they're in a very good position to find a third attacking round here on Clubhouse.
Well, probably not going to go for the trick again. At this point, it'll get itself popped open, but even when it was an even man count, you still had w7m scream their way into the site at this point. There's a couple of positions to delay. Obviously, you've got the Fenrir mines around, you've got yourself with the Goyo canister, so you can try and rebuff whatever the approach is, but remember how w7m have been playing this. So systematic. We saw them going for the Logi control, the CC pressure, then they instantly pull themselves off. Here they're onto Jacuzzi. They give themselves all these options. Then they're just going to recheck in, realize where the 3 remaining people are. If they get the read that one of them is hanging around in CC, they then get the choice. Okay, do we just try and cut our way through onto the 2 players, or do we force out Shepard, find this fight elsewhere? You can see them actively droning it, working it out and running the numbers right now. It's so well played and placed, and shows why a team like this is so good and so dominant, because they are reading what their opponents are doing and then working out how to shut it down.
And most importantly for w7m, it's not as if they get a little bit blood hungry. Yeah, you got 2 kills, but we still got a checklist to go through, get the fundamentals down pat. They do that. Shepard knows he has to get aggressive now towards CCTV. Does swing, gets one. Had he got that kill out onto the balcony exterior of Con, it would have made it a 2 versus 2. Pasha caught, top Logi hatch. That is a wonderful one-tap headshot from Pasha. Changes the complexion of this round now with 40 seconds left from what looked like a potential comfortable round for w7m. It has completely fallen apart. Shepard and Pasha on the site have been able to manage this round perfectly. 30 seconds left, and Dash brings it back to a 1 versus 1 as Shepard lies waiting Con and makes the push into Logistic. Dash has to stick to plant, and Shepard will have to play off of this noise.
Rotating his way around towards the fire, but it's going to get stuck, so he might just move into it. Pre-fires Jim, thinking he's on the other side, and the flashes will come out. The power has now entirely flipped into Dash's side, but he's stuck in the middle of the fight, and the pings are on their side. Pulls himself back round. He knows he needs to be a bit aggressive here. He needs to force and hope that his first tracer is the one that makes the connection, as Shepard goes in deep, gets the drop. Unbelievable play and hold on to there for the 2 VP players that really stuck it out. I said they had some options of delay, and we saw them work as best as they can. The Goyo canisters caught in the Fenrir mines, just those little points, those little executes of pressure that forced w7m to have to second guess, reevaluate. It brought them pockets that only world-class players can then exploit. But as you said, this whole server is truly world-class.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fundamental siege from Virtus.pro on the defense. You lost 2 very early. We didn't quite get to see those kills. We will now. Okay, so a long-range sight. Cheeky peek from Dash. Gets one nice and early. They get a second pretty quickly after that. It's a 5v2 at that point when they get the kill in towards Logi. So an incredible job from Pasha and Shepard to be able to hold down the fort, considering how outnumbered they were, and yet still, by bringing it back, it became a 1v1 post-plant. w7m still almost had a good opportunity to finalize the round that they arguably should have won, but that is a huge swing of momentum towards Virtus.pro to win a round in that fashion, really highlighting the quality of the players in this server.
And a break. A brief moment here as whatever tech problem will be resolved as quick as possible, but it's almost like we've just hit a bell. This is a boxing match. They've traded a few blows, they've started to work each other's bodies, and now they're in each other's corners, and they're just staring each other down right now. And that is almost everything that I want from this showdown, right? You want these 2 teams to excel, regardless of which one you're a fan of, who you want to win the whole tournament. If you want to watch a performance, you want to watch the top teams play to a top team level.
Well, that's why I love Club as well. I mean, it's at the moment at Six Invitational, 39 rounds played for a 51-48 split. So it's just very much even as you go, depending on the sites, of course, yes, but it is pretty 50-50 when it comes to defense or attack. And I think you're seeing that firsthand in this particular game to showcase that 2-2 after 4 rounds. I mean, sure, w7m probably should have won that last round, but I mean, credit to VP, especially Pasha and Shepard, for what they were able to do as a duo. In theory, it was a 2v5, and that is the kind of round I probably was not anticipating for w7m to throw away, because they actually played that well. They got the first 2 kills, and then it's not as if they went hunting. Exactly. They still went back. They still went through the game plan. We've got to get Jacuzzi. We've got to get com pressure. We've got to do this, 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 and this, and they did so in a pretty timely fashion. I mean, it's just some amazing shooting, though, from VP. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. That one tap from Pasha. I mean, that's
I'm still thinking about it.
I mean, that
still
is
thinking about it.
The
still
kind
there.
of play that is required to stop that push from w7m. They had to rise and elevate to a high level. It wasn't necessarily that w7m, you know, dropped off in level. It was just VP and those two specifically found a way to pull that one back. So it was more to do with them than it was for w7m. That is just a great round of Siege. I want more. Can we resolve this issue?
It's being resolved. The issue is being resolved.
Actually, it's been worked on.
Okay, listen. I only go by everything that is on screen. Okay? I have one rule.
Well, I mean, we've got a second monitor here.
We do have a second monitor. I have one rule.
They've all just got back into the lobby, so I don't think we will be too far away.
I'm one of the people, you know?
You are a person.
I'm a person. And we'll hopefully be back in. But, you know, the players want to get back in as well because it's not that either of them want to break right now. Sure, it's been 2 traded pairs of rounds, but it's not that anyone is lacking.
I don't know. I feel like if I was them, I wouldn't mind a little 5-minute breather, to be honest, because the first 4 rounds have been quite hectic. These two are playing at a very high level.
It's going to continue.
Like, this is groups, and this is, though, what these two teams are capable of and why there's expectations.
It's groups, but you could imagine this being a final.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it was a final a couple of months ago.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah, well, yeah, another one. For SI. Yeah.
I mean, hey, you've got, what, technically the org of the previous Hammer, obviously very different roster, entirely different roster even. But then you've also got Virtus.pro, who were one of the only teams to actually make any segue? No, that's just transitioning from one side to the other. Make any headway in towards the actual live stages at Brazil, surrounded by 11,000 Brazilians pulling out wins.
Yeah. Back underway, basement we go. 5th round, 2 more to go in the first half here for what's been a very enjoyable half of Siege. Clubhouse can provide that. I mean, Club sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap because it's quite defaulty. All of the teams know how Club is going to be played, but every now and then you do see adaptation and teams looking to implement new styles as to how they want to attack it or defend it. I think this particular round is shaping up to be rather conventional, especially from the defensive approach for Virtus.pro. Depends on how aggressive they may want to get if they go for a roam with the castle barricades, block off bar, get main stairs control. I can't imagine it'll be too aggressive. Double hard breach. It's an early push in towards dirt from Dash, and that's a Vulcan canister popped early, incredibly early.
It seems like this is one of the slower approaches, but there's actually pressure being put against them. And is it going to be shut down? No, around the side of the bar, Dan pops his head up, gets those, and is able to almost escape.
Oh, God, no way.
Oh, that is a gift. And he has not wasted it, Monty. He was applying some breach on towards it. If he'd have been a step a half second later, he would have lived. But, hey,
It's the power of the castle barricade still being up. He has the information that he knows he's safe. He can play left side bar coming in from stage, and he knows that if someone pushes it, he's going to probably have them dead to right. And then when he sees Volps just on the other side of the castle barricade, it's a free kill. Just a free kill. He knows he's got the position in the map that it's safe. Now that you've got those 2 kills, the beauty of Church Arsenal is you can just send all 5 back down below. It is incredibly difficult for the 3 attackers to pull this round off. I mean, we saw, I know, a 2v5 in the last round, but that's a different story.
I mean, and that being impacted off as well now, by the sounds of it, that's a hatch that's going to stay solid because what do they have? You know, they've got a man who can try and burn through it, but it's so risky. That hatch, if they just try and peek up, your legs, your body, everything is on display. They're still having to face check the top floor. This round has really tragically fallen away, and again, the cost of the buck as well. All of the soft here to try and get control of the corridor, the connection between the 2 sites, the route down the bottom of main, it's all gone. It's all these positions now that they cannot put the pressure on the same way, and at the same time on the other side, the utility that's still in the pocket here. Shepard, 3 smoke canisters, they have the C4 always ready, ripped and lined up and dropped out. Dash survives.
He may as well be dead.
But yeah, 1 breath. And that is the last bit of hard breach they have that is range. Otherwise, Dots has got a lot to do.
Yeah, very difficult prospect. And you can see the hesitation for w7m. They know they don't really have a lot of prep done towards the site. They've already found themselves 2 players down. It's going to take something quite miraculous.
Oh, a team kill.
And a team kill's not going to help. Nice kill on to Dan, but Logan got more than he bargained for. Kit down over towards Generator. Dash now with a slow push through dirt. Not a lot of time remaining. may be good for one here. And it's a bit of a stat pad ending for w7m because they're not really going to be able to win this round. Shepard and Always are the ones stat padding at the end with the double kill to close it out. And a well-worked round in the end from Virtus.pro, but it was Dan, as we had him on the screen, who really set that round up with the double kill to begin with. The castle barricade, the little roam up above, works out perfectly. Get the 2 kills, you fall back to site, and it's a rather comfortable round. And Virtus.pro take the lead for the first time.
They get themselves in, they get themselves off to a little bit more of the control. Obviously, it is their map. It's the position they want to be, but based on the fact that it is w7m starting on their attack, and you know, how much did they want out of it? Moments like that, it was, I mean, the round was a frustration from the sort of off, especially with the mana that operators were lost, but experienced teams, they'll brush that one off. They'll keep themselves going. They'll sort of...
You know Volbs will be kicking himself too.
Oh, 100%.
So after a fast start from w7m, taking the opening 2 rounds, a response from Virtus.pro has been rather swift. 3 in a row have been found across 3 different sites as well, which is good news for them. Last time defending in the half. And it will be Cash and CCTV. Always will go back onto the clash. We haven't seen it since the opening round. Brings it back, maybe in response to the shield play from w7m, as they've got, of course, the Montang, which we've been seeing, and now in this round, the Blackbeard as well, which I think is the first time we will see Blackbeard in the half.
Will the Blackbeard be the difference maker at this point? They've obviously doubled down with the shields as well. It's not the most uncommon thing in the current meta and the current capabilities of them. A C4 is actually recollected. They weren't happy with how it got thrown in, and they want to maybe try again, but with the pings on the player that you said they should have gone through first, I'm wondering if we're going to get that this time. Obviously, without a Capitao, the take on towards the rafter is a little bit more awkward to pull together, but you can still try and make it happen. And even though it is clash, it's an Always, it means them sort of getting themselves back in towards the side. It's going to be a little bit awkward depending on the opening on the holes itself. It's going to have to be some force, some pressure, and when you have 2 shields, that's actually sort of what they're perfect for.
Yeah, I just wonder if that was like a phantom pressure nitro. You're not opting to burn it early. You just want to keep the Maverick honest, keep him a bit wary. Clash towards rafters. Again, Capitao has been banned out because of the rehost. You can't speak the ban.
So many grenades.
There's a lot of grenades thrown towards Always, and does get some damage, which is, I mean, handy, but he does stay alive, and that means the shield is still blocking the push up towards rafters. Here comes, well, 2 more shields in front of Always, the Blackbeard and the Montang.
Well, there it is, really. I mean, there was no support that was coming through. If they did, they probably would have lost their life. They know it's a power position, but it doesn't make or break the round itself. There's a long-range fight there towards a Blackbeard that wants to get themselves set up as the cover, the wall behind the attempt at the plant with Dots, who can just sort of turn around and turtle. Now, there is some pressure underneath them as well. Lobin, as the Buck, might try and cut them off if they go for the cutoff, but as the juggle of utilities starts here, the first smoke will force the players further around. Now, they do have a fair bit to work with here, but obviously, there's always still the danger of that C4. If Shepard can get that connection, they drop the shield, well, then that's the kid isolated as it was before. And, well, there's the next smoke thrown out. They'd already moved off, but there is the cover of the Blackbeard. We said the power of the player, and still have 1 more smoke, 30 seconds, a C4 in a single moment could be the meaning that they've got to push and break.
Yeah, but Shepard's inside a con, so I don't know if that Nitro Cell is going to be able to get over to stop the plant. That's the final gas babe thrown out from Pasha, no more, 20 seconds, and Shepard goes for a rotate. Has anyone got the watch? I don't think so, so he might be able to get into a position where that Nitro could still have an impact. Drop from Pasha, trying to clear out the player below, and Lobin, and does so successfully. Shepard goes for the vault over. He actually might make his way in towards CCTV. There is that Nitro Cell, but the plant has gone down successfully. Joystick with a double kill, and only Dash is left now in a 1 versus 2.
Dash is so far away. He's got to try and get himself up there as quick as he can, and he just makes it and finds the kill. 1 more. A 1 versus 1 with 29 seconds. Shepard scratched Dash. He suffered a bit as well. Neither of them really have the cost of utility, but there is so much pressure here on Shepard because, oh, is that within range? He's got to bait the play. He's got to bait the player, and I mean, Dash is playing this perfectly. He's sending himself out, and he sees it. Does he make it in time? I'm holding my breath.
0.7!
Closest one of the tournament so far, I believe, but what an explosion that turned into.
Oh, I mean, what a round. I think that was incredibly well played from w7m with Volps on that Montaigne. They baited out a lot of utility, tried to eventually then get the plant down, 20 seconds to go. They get it successfully. Yes, they lost some bodies and players for it. Good responses from Virtus.pro. It's really par for the course when it comes to the matchup that we've had between these two so far. Some really good movement from both teams. Shepard inside of Con eventually gets himself out onto the balcony, throws the Nitrocell from CC window inside. He gets a big kill as that plant had just gone down. And then dashing around the map to put himself back into a position where he can salvage the 1v2. Good headshot onto Joystick, and at that point he knows he can just kind of wait and hold, probably not anticipating Shepard to go for the Volt out there, and he does so in just the nick of time. 4-2 lead for Virtus.pro, 4 rounds in a row as well. And now we switch halves. w7m onto the defense, straight away to basement, but some great momentum that has been gained for Virtus.pro.
As close as it could get. But now, it's a game of 2 halves, and we'll see if that's something that can start to be pressed upon them. Obviously, the choice of the splits was w7m's, and now they've maybe got the defense to work with, depending on what they sort of find more comfortable, sort of more palatable towards their approach. And, you know, it's one of those sort of setups where even if statistically a team is having a great time attacking or defending, and, well, to be fair, both these teams, their stats across this tournament, because we don't have the biggest data pool yet, they're convincing. Something that starts to push itself in here. They've got themselves the full extension towards the top floor. Jacuzzi, reinforced, locked in. They're sort of saying, look, come and chase us, come and find us, Virtus.pro. They're pushing VP into that slow, long, wide game that they've sort of, you know, been known to play a fair few times here. They're making them have to work for the timer rather than focusing down towards it. Compare it with the pace of w7m's ability to take over the top floors, but there wasn't so much as a sort of contest around here. Other than the time than Dan got a 2K and slipped his way out, there's almost the first fight, but down through the hatch and then back to the side.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I love the most about this Virtus.pro roster is that they've got so much star power across the board. Yes, always has really started well at Six Invitational, but he is struggling in this game. 2-5, of course, the rehost that we had earlier, messing a little bit with the KDAs, but it's Shepard, 7-2 at the moment. And 1-0 entry as well for Joystick, the only one that is positive. So they're not quite winning the entry battles as much, and, well, further confirmed with Dash getting the kill onto Joystick. Dash is actually the one really fragging now for w7m. With that kill, he goes to 10-4.
At this point, with the 2 players stuck towards the top, and you have the option of a minute of what do we start to focus on, we still have heavy bits of sort of woodwork and utility to clear our way through here. The reinforcements and the extension, the play with the keeper barricades, how mobile those 3 can be in the pockets of Lobin, who can start to restructure the defense. Here's another Virtus.pro player that might be about to get trapped and encircled. Always is checking corners where the Jackal died. They're having to, again, face check them because of the first loss. Always takes a shoulder of damage. They know where the player is, but confirming the fight. But someone's coming up behind him as well. There's Volps, who set himself up on the main stairs, holding the pressure. Look at how w7m are moving and manipulating the space. They're still refusing to give it up because there's 30 seconds left. At this point, even just now hunting down Lobin becomes, well, we don't have time. We have to hit the site. Where do we go at this point? Pasha's above Moto Hatch. There might be some presence inside Dirt. Volps finds Pasha, so now they only have Dirt presence. They're just gonna have to send themselves through a single door.
Gave up too much map control, too much spacing. Good retake from Lobin. This round's done as Shepard is the solo coming out of Dirt. He eventually loses his life. A solid round from w7m. I thought that the ability for Lobin to just hang around that sort of lounge stock area, he's able to kind of control that bar push, eventually get some help from Volps pushing up main stairs. He then gets that kill onto a Pasha who looked a little bit hesitant. Do I drop Moto? But if I drop Moto, then Lobin's going to come in from behind me. So do I wait for Lobin to potentially push in? And it's just the aggression. 30 seconds left, bam. Yeah, Lobin gets a huge kill because he's still lingering around that lounge side. And then they just went for a double push Dirt, which was really never going to be that successful.
It was all they had. I had a quick look over towards the stats there, and to be fair, you know, it makes things a little bit more visible of why w7m opted to start on their attack the second best at the start of this game, 61% across the games that they've played. The defense, 42%. On the side of Virtus.pro, 56% on their attack, but 64 on their defense. So they're actually positive either side of the scale. So this could be the part where they can try and pressure and press that stat. But
I mean, those numbers you threw up, Emmy, kind of, you know, the 4-2 that we got, probably about right. So, I mean, I think this game is trending in the expected direction. 4-3 scoreline, w7m on defense. Again, to be fair, Clubhouse at SI so far has been rather 50-50, but when you kind of talk about the teams individually, well, then it gets us back to that 4-2 territory in favor of the defense. I think w7m, the bigger thing for me is they actually got the 2 attacking rounds to begin with, 2 in a row to start, and they couldn't get any more. Credit to VP. Of course, that round streak now has been broken. It was 4 in a row for VP prior to the 7th round.
Well, bit of work done there with the Maverick. Volps is waiting for somebody to be on the rappel. Dots is watching the other side, but Dan, I'm not sure if he's entirely contesting this. That's not great artisanal work there by Shepard.
Oh, no.
And he's going to suffer for the end of it. I mean, couldn't quite get the connection. For the compliments I paid to the fact that they're pushing themselves into a classic Maverick game, maybe that isn't the best example of how we start, but can they try and rebuild? It's even tougher now. Dash catches out Joystick, who is on the rappel. Well,
w7m are just doing a better job at the moment in the early portion of the rounds. In the last, 5 rounds that we've played, they've got 4 of the opening kills. So that's becoming a bit of a trend that's going against VP after they were the ones that started in that particular area of the game better in the first 2 to 3 rounds. So w7m have been able to get that grasp, and doing so now onto the defense again, it makes these rounds rather conventional from here on out. You know, it's 5v3, the 3 for Virtus.pro all have to basically play utterly perfect and always not being able to win that battle, and we're on the verge of almost a flawless. Indeed, we do get there, and deservedly so. w7m not putting a foot wrong and punishing mistakes and errors and sloppiness with the Mav tricking and all of that going on. If VP aren't going to be perfect in that facet of the game, w7m are going to punish that. They're going to pounce on that. 2 rounds for them now in a row, all tied up, 4-4.
Eu vou fazer a frost pra você na garagem, careca, se vier ao montanha, tá? Ô, Dots, eu vou precisar que o seu ferrir da caveira esteja...
What's your Portuguese like?
I understood the word garage because it sounded pretty much exactly the same as it is in English.
Garage.
It's just, as he said it perfectly, mistakes are being made there. It's, of the 2 teams throughout this game so far, probably the sloppiest round approach there, but there was also the time where we saw the Monty, so both teams have made these mistakes, right? Both teams have had these moments, and Virtus.pro were punished just as much there as w7m were punished when it happened to them, but that is the part of the course. We're back tied up 4-4. You know both teams are now going to step themselves back up, but you have to give compliments to how w7m are doing this defense. It's so aggressively mobile. I love it. Every single opportunity that they can step themselves into, they have full faith, full confidence, and full support from their team. There's always another w7m player within sort of arm's reach, within the chance of getting a trade and a cover. They are making sure that although it's a very fluid hold, with his armies, with sort of the setups that they can move and manipulate, there is always still a support structure around it.
I genuinely don't believe there's that much separation between these 2 teams. And honestly, the Montreal semi-final probably highlights that, having gone to 3 maps.
You were there?
Yeah, and I did cast that game.
Oh my word.
I think it was, what's his name? Guns?
It's been so long since you've seen him.
I gotta check in on him.
Same with me and Parker.
Parker?
Oh no, that's the
yelling in the other room, by the way.
Yeah,
of course, the B-stream happening
guy.
at the moment. 4-4. Shepard back onto the Maverick and hoping that this time he doesn't lose his life.
Oh, they got the wall open with the trick this time round, so the setup there was much quicker, much cleaner. It's again an aggressive wide hold here. Now, Dodos is in a bit of a tricky position. Obviously, he cannot really cross his way. He's almost playing this for a sort of life position and drawing the focus, and he has a lot of support to do it with. There's obviously the stress of Volts, but he's also easier to isolate. And remember, it's not CC. They've still got to clear their way across the site itself. At this point, Will this full dedication be something that's punished? There goes his escape route. Volps is gone. The compliments paid are shut down, but as he gets joystick, he's at least been able to trade one into the position and a lot of utility. So, is that the trade that they want? What's the win condition of this position? Well, they hope he's been paid onto it. There's Lobin, though. Gets Pasha. Here's that support structure. I said how mobile it is. You've got Dots moves in above. Lobin moved in underneath and got the crossfire, I think, all the way from the side of a window. Brilliantly put together there from w7m.
Yeah, it's like a little battle here within the war that we've got. Still a minute left. You know, Shepard's just still sitting on the rappel outside of CC Breach, so I think we're going to get a bit of a reset moment here. Things are going to cool down, slow down, 3v3, everyone's resetting. So for w7m, it's a fallback. They've still got Jacuzzi. Breach, that's solidified. That's probably not going to get opened up, so a big battle that they can hold over towards 90, main stairs. They've got a lot of that backside that has still been solidified for the defense. For the VP, of course, they've only got 3 defenders that they have to deal with. Couple of flashes on the side of Shepard. I still like, honestly, w7m in this position because of the fact that Jacuzzi has not been opened up and Dash still has a nitro cell.
Dan takes a lot of damage. Lobin is barely clinging to life just as much, but the fact that it's still a 3 versus 3 is the main part of this. Nobody's able to get that full bite because nobody is sure that the motion isn't the one that's going to have the coverage. Escaping the flashes right back towards the bed, but it's 2. Dots and Dash are able to put themselves on it, with Dots getting the final one. W7m.
I mean, just perfect play from Dots there because you're getting so much information. You know there's only 3 players left. One of them is Logi. He's just thrown the flash. It's going to be aggressive. I'm going to rotate back into sight, and we're going to have a 3-on-2. Swings the window immediately because you don't want to just run back into the site and then just sit in the corner and hide. You need to be aggressive at that point because you know one's coming in from behind you. The logistics hat drop is going to happen. So I need a swing, get the kill. He does that, and then he can, of course, turn around. And then if, you know, that Logi Hatch does then come through on the push, he's ready for it. So that was just really precise, quick movement from Dots. He finds the double kill at the end, of course, by getting the final kill on the con push. Really well played from w7m, and just a really good understanding that, hey, they haven't got Jacuzzi opened up. Yes, there was a bit of a battle, a scrappy one, over towards the CCTV side, but that means that VP haven't got site objective 1 in terms of opening Jacuzzi, getting pressure, dealing with utility. All of those kind of things were still in favor of w7m, and that's why that push was always still going to be quite difficult for Virtus.pro, and w7m retake the lead for the first time in a while.
It's been just big blocks of rounds, right? It was 2, then it was 4, and now it's back to 3. And, you know, at some point, this momentum has to sort of break. There has to be a bit of a change of face here. And to be honest, you sort of look at the KD spread. Obviously, the numbers you've got at the bottom of the screen aren't the true ones because we had a rehost, but
12-5 for Dash.
Yeah, and it's 9-5 for Shepard, but every other member of Virtus.pro is currently, unfortunately, in the negative.
And it's actually a single kill every round for Shepard. He's got a 1.0 KPR. So I mean, they're very efficient.
Man's consistent, but I think that's the sort of spread of it right now, is just that gun game is operating so well for w7m, and I'm still going to sort of highlight how well they set themselves up for trades, for pressure. They're not letting any of these sort of kills go unanswered. We've had moments, at least when there was on the defense of Virtus.pro, they would have maybe Dan loose, who suffered a bit on the entry and was able to get one of himself. It was traded back and forth, but they didn't play themselves to have reinforcements and to waste time and to stretch the opponents. Again, here, you're looking at a w7m that thrives in that environment. And the pressure is on Virtus.pro. What do we do? Do we go up to the top? Do we try and clear these players out? Do we try and force them down and catch them? Well, Dash doesn't want to be caught. He actually just wants the fight onto stock here. Now, there is the main door open. Lesion has been targeted, so the focus is on Dodes inside rafters, and he's hoping this will just drift them in. But again, because they are in these positions, they can support that Lesion, and it just slows Virtus.pro down even more. A minute 30, and what do they have other than vague ideas? People are up top and nearby.
Logic Bomb immediately popped by Always as soon as he got that charge. Shot above, a chance, courtesy of the Inox scanner from the Jackal of Joystick, and Lobin does go down, finished off by Dan. He'll happily claim that. You know, a lot of pressure that can certainly be applied by the Deimos and the Jackal, and the ability to track a lot of the members of w7m. Dodes is going to get death marked and actually just lost half of his health. pushing in behind the generator. 60 seconds left. Virtus.pro certainly with the best opportunity they've had in the half to find an attacking round.
Do they know about Dash? That's going to be the fun game that we'll get to play from home right now, as it doesn't seem like they do. They're full setting up and sending themselves on towards the break. There is maybe a player watching Joystick, but Dan is caught even with the cover, and now what do? Because Dash is up there up top. There's 30 seconds. You have the track, but he's happy to sit at the top of red and sort of say, yeah, come and get me.
If Joystick does stay there, then it's a 3v3 on site. So I think you're better off just leaving Dash at this point. Top floor, push in, have a 4-on-3 on site, and get chaotic here for Virtus.pro, because there's only 20 seconds left. I mean, they need to make the push.
Well, the push is starting to come, and behind Joystick, turn around. He didn't. Dash is able to pick up the kill now, and it's the 3 versus 4, 2 versus 4, all of them on site itself. W7m, they just shut it down. Virtus.pro, too much to do, not enough time, and they'll find themselves staring down map point.
Yeah, Virtus.pro just delayed their attack entirely because of Dash's pressure. As soon as he gets that kill over towards storage, it's like, well, we've got to deal with this, and so they all kind of stand still. They call off the attack, and when I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the clock, and I'm seeing 20 seconds left, and I'm thinking, he's top red, he's top floor. Why don't you just push through Secret into blue? Everyone else pushes main side, and you have the 4-on-3. It may not work, very well may not work, but you will have the numbers advantage temporarily until Dash can rotate back to site. Instead, they kind of just stand around, they hesitate, they take their time. Dash ends up then actually rotating to site anyway, and from there, w7m just clean house, and Virtus.pro, sorry to say, but with, what, 2 rounds to go, they call a tactical timeout, and the last time that we have seen an attacking round win here on Clubhouse in this match, you have to go all the way back to the second round. It's been defense ever since from both sides.
Time to talk, time to work thing out, and time to see if they can try and...
And don't forget, it's VP's map pick.
It is. And that's the sort of stress of it, because it's also a VP map. Famously, they adore Clubhouse. They always have, and they've always brought a very solid game. But at the same time, you know, there's sort of a bravado around Club.
Yeah, that kill there, that's where the hesitation then came from, and I think they were just a little bit too slow in opting then to go for the push. Well played, though. I mean, Dash has been just absolutely far and away the best player in the server, and it's not even close. In fact, 164 EPS Emmy.
Wow.
+9 KD, 14 and 5, and more importantly, 3-0 on the entry, 1.4 KPR, 90% cost. He is putting on an absolute clinic right now for w7m. One of the better performed individual performances we've had in a singular map at the tournament so far. Absolutely. He has been outstanding. Unfortunately for Virtus.pro now, 4 players in the red when it comes to KD. Only Shepard positive, 9 and 6.
Well, this half is showing itself all red balls currently. w7m, they have stormed their way back in to Clubhouse, and we've got to see if the team talk is one that can pull Virtus.pro back. Just the 2 rounds. It's not the biggest divide, but the pressure.
It's not, but it would go against the grain right now because, as I said, it's been 8 rounds in a row where the defensive side has won.
Oh, yeah. Statistically, optimist, pessimist, a C4 that doesn't quite
I'm a realist.
Anybody. A realist.
I know stats and facts. And sometimes hopium for the O's teams. Well, always gets one onto Dots, who went for a little peek underwards. Of course, he called back a couple of rounds ago. Somewhat similar, where they got the kill onto Shepard. Maybe the thought process there is, I might try and go for that surprise factor, but credit to VP. They learn from their mistakes. They're able to punish that. Dots goes down. Great start to the round. But it is now the 3rd round in a row where they've got that opening kill.
Yep.
Can they actually convert it, though? Because they're unable to do so in the last 2.
Well, the long-range pressure on towards the watch here on CC. I mean, it's obviously a site that is very familiar. We've talked about the importance of getting yourself in control of the rafters, and the Brava drone is doing a lot of daylight robbery of some of the utility that is otherwise
nothing else to get
up. They've left, and you've got Volps obviously playing top red, and Dodes is playing his life inside rafters, but there's no one else directly here right now. Volps is actually aggressively trying to make friends outside of a breach with a slug shotgun. Nobody has decided they want to respond. Instead, actually, it's Loban with a double. Swings his way in from construction, right to top red, pulls off a 2K, and suddenly this round has entirely flipped itself in. Volps stacked up, staring at Virtus.pro players who just have nothing but open space in front of them.
And they've done this as well without Dash. He was in gym for the last 30 seconds, only just now makes his way back in towards construction. Dode's still low over towards Rafters, but the peek is successful. Quick headshot onto Joystick, sitting under a bundle of nades though. Pasha converts the kill, giving themselves still just enough time if they can force the issue. Volps goes for the peek. Pasha's ready for it though. Takes his head clean off and makes it a 2 versus 2. Shot through the drone hole, little tag onto Loban, but they've got to now collect that kit and send it into sight and make no errors. They must be clean in the last 15 seconds.
But in the pocket of Loban, maybe the end of the round sits a C4 ripped and ready. They've got to be aware of it. If they go for the default plant spot, they could play it from over the shoulder or underneath. They're currently pushing deeper and deeper.
Pasha,
he's going and changing place, but Loban's underneath. There it is. And as I said it has come true, unfortunately for Virtus.pro, a tightly contested map, and you could see that they were running the numbers on it as well. They just weren't sure. W7m, they went down, but they sure picked themselves back up there.
Yeah, I mean, a tremendous match overall. I do want to give credit still to both teams, as much as in the end, w7m ran away with it, picking up the last 5 rounds in a row to close out this game 7-4. And there are some similarities to probably the last time they met in Montreal, where a lot of the maps were that 7-4, 7-3 kind of scoreline. It happens again here. w7m also taking the map pick of Virtus.pro.
Well, we've had a couple of mysteries solved, but there's still the big one about Skyscraper after we listen to the analysts break down this one.
Available now. W7M have kickstarted this series with a statement. A 4-2 first half from Virtus.pro gave us a lot of hope, and I'm sure all of you at home a lot of hope. The second it changed over, it was not a good look for them, and now the Brazilian teams are running off with this one. Lax, W7M are in prime position.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I was hoping VP, especially this being their map pick, and they obviously enjoy Clubhouse, but the performance, once that side swap happened, it was just a night and day difference in terms of what we were seeing from VP. Yeah. You know, we were talking about, are they going to come into confidence with this? Are we going to see aggressive plays? Can they rely on their static gameplay? Absolutely not. We didn't see any of that, and the trade games for them just absolutely were not there, and W7M was running amok with those.
I mean, Clubhouse is all about the attacks. W7M only got 2, but what did Virtus.pro get? They got 0. So, I mean, W7M was fairly matched. They knew all we have to do is just get a couple of rounds. Once we go to defense, we can slow these guys out. I like what I saw from Virtus.pro. They tried different looks. They tried to split up, play the 1v1 trade game. Yeah. It wasn't working. Then they tried back to revert. 5 people on one side. It wasn't working. W7M was just tasked so well on every single look of Virtus.pro gave at them. They were constantly getting that opening kill, and obviously they were making it very frustrating for Virtus.pro to even get in the map, constantly pestering the map on the CCTV wall, constantly holding all of the entrances for Virtus.pro. So it was just a very difficult position for Virtus.pro to be in.
Where does that change really come from, Lax? I mean, like like the night and day difference just feels very stark. Is it just the complete polar opposite when it comes to attacking and defending? Is it just such a hard thing to grasp?
I mean, you could say yes and no to that, but when you're on a map like Clubhouse, this isn't a crazy map. There isn't going to be something that you're going to see that is going to be like, oh, wow, I can't believe they did that. That's so shocking. Yeah. It's just as simple as not making these small mistakes and capitalizing off of mistakes that are happening. And again, for VP, you know, I talked about always being able to lead this team, be able to set them up for success. Obviously not having the best showing today, but that still goes for a team dynamic on Clubhouse. Everyone should know the ins and outs, what can happen and what can't happen. And again, what we weren't seeing was them being able to transition and adopt something that was actually making things work through and through to try to push this to an overtime, to try to get this to go in their favor.
And it's so difficult to play against W7M because they never really give you a moment to set up. The only way that you can respond to W7M is bringing some type of a shield, trying to get information, just making sure that you can guarantee that first pick. And that'll be absolutely what Virtus.pro needs to do, or else they're still going to have that problem going into map 2. They won't be able to get in the map if they can't guarantee that first pick.
And when you're looking at W7M, they were transitioning in all fronts. They were always getting aggressive. They were knowing when to play passive. They were playing the perfect game of Siege of the passive aggressiveness and the style that works for Clubhouse.
It's something that we talked about beforehand. W7M, they're an absolute handful when it comes to any map. They are a dangerous team, and VP are struggling right now. We usually say they've got to climb a hill, but this time they're going to have to scale a building. We go to Skyscraper after this. Tooth and nail is all that they're going to have to do to get through this one. VP go on to Skyscraper. Like you said at the start, you were super worried about this map pick.
I mean, I'm even more skeptical of everything as a whole, just due to the fact that they didn't get their map, and now they're going to a map that they don't play, that is their permaban. You're allowing it to go through. So, I mean, I want to say that I have faith that they have prepped something, they have something, cooked something up in the lab for this map. But if your performance is going to be the way it was on Clubhouse, when Clubhouse is such a default map, and now you're finding yourself on Skyscraper, where it's going to be similar in some senses, but it is going to be very defender-sided, and you need to be able to make things work on attack, they are going to struggle.
This map pick is obviously a risk, the fact that Virtus.pro just left it up. But this is the perfect moment for you to try something out like this. Obviously, they've practiced it enough to feel comfortable to leave it up. If it goes well, maybe it's something we see more of going into playoffs, going into the main stage, if they can make it that far. If it doesn't, then they know they can put it to rest. It's a great team to test it up against. Virtus.pro's in a good position in their group. I think it's the perfect time to pull it out. And the one difference that Skyscraper is to Clubhouse is it's a lot more defender-sided. Yes, your attacks matter, but you can win 5-1, 6-0 sometimes on a half. So Virtus.pro being a very good structured team, it'll play into that play style a little bit. But w7m so good at getting those opening picks, so good at stopping you at the door, at the gauntlet from getting inside the building. Virtus.pro's still going to have to figure out that task, which is just getting inside the building.
Well, their backs are up against the wall. There is no two ways about it. They're going to have to fight their way out of this one. They're going to have to do a lot of damage. Usually I'd say the bears are the strongest animal, but I think a tiger might be. They're going to have to do damage as if they've got tiger claws. It's time for us to get across to our incredible casters, Xenox and Fluke.
Thank you very much. We're looking...
Do I have tiger claws?
I think the cultural definition for you is a bear.
Rob is a bear.
Rob is a bear. Yes, Rob is a bear. But these are the Babulls versus the Bears, and to be fair, the Babulls have been a bit better. We are going into Skyscraper next, and
Dangerous territory for Virtus.pro.
For Bears and for Bulls, really. But at this point, I guess we'll see. You know, it's been a bit of a while. It's been a hot minute since we've seen Virtus.pro on Skyscraper.
How long has it been, Emmy?
It's been roughly 350 days.
Very specific.
It's a bit specific. In fact, I think. Do you think?
That would have been Six Invitational 24.
Yeah, it might have even been the 25th of February, a day that I think you might have been working.
Yeah, I think I might have been. Ringing.
Right. Yes,
Bringing
that's
back
it.
some
The
memory.
last time.
Dark Zeros versus
Yes.
VP.
Yep. That is
Upper bracket, 8-7 Skyscraper, and a massive clutch for VP, and they go on and win it. And there might have been some swearing.
Yes, that is, it's all come back to me. Yes, funnily enough, the last time this was played was cast by you and Guz back in the previous SI, and obviously it was one of those huge games, pushed past Dark Zero. It went all the way 8-7. It was crazy, and at the time, we talked about it being a ban as well.
And VP were like, this was so stressful, we're never playing this again. And they've banned it ever since. There is no data of this map for Virtus.pro since that moment. In fact, they just banned it out. I am surprised they've let this through, and I understand what Fox was saying on the analyst desk about, oh, this might be a good time to sort of bring it back and get a bit of an opportunity on it. I guess they've got no choice now.
I mean,
the good news is they at least begin defense.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things about Virtus.pro. If you are highlighting things where they've had gaps in their play and their sort of pool, it was their pool. It was always the limitations of their maps. They had a very stringent set that they would play on. They're a little bit slower to adapt to new maps at points, and they wouldn't quite have that same sort of aggressive pace that others like to apply. So let's see if there have been lessons learned. The Monty gone off the board alongside the Azami, but
you want a Xenox fun fact?
Always.
As much as it's been a long time since we've seen this map for Virtus.pro, it's also the first time we're going to see it at Six Invitational 25.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
It has been the decider map, but it hasn't then got played. So this is the first time we're actually going to get it for SI 25, which does also then mean every map has now been played in the map pool. Virtus.pro on defense, of course. W7m winning out on Clubhouse 7-4. Doing so by winning the final 5 rounds in a row. Of course, Skyscraper always leaning itself towards the defense. So first up, w7m step up to the plate on attack to see if they can break down Virtus.pro's defense. And we also will get some answers as to whether or not VP have been workshopping this behind the scenes. It's been their absolute insta-ban map numero uno. They get rid of it all the time. But maybe this is where they've tried to spring a trap and say, yeah, we've actually been working on this. It's ready to go.
Well, the pressure here will start as it did before now. Can this be w7m continuing the pressure that they were able to apply so adeptly? They spend time building, cooking, proposing assault, and then from that point onwards, they're able to snap it down from the multiple options they set themselves up, but Sky handles itself a bit more difficultly. You've got to try and go for these heavy rotates over the top. You can already see some exploration outside the building from Pasha, who I think threw himself outside the double door, just to have a peek, but it's Dan that almost stepped immediately up against a Deimos that's just sitting, waiting, ready. The hard breach wall towards the top of the house stairs is still stood. Volps, however, is not. And that is the Nomad gone. They better hope the air jabs are in place because they're inside the site anyway, so anything that comes back is in towards the pressure. There's the flood all the way across. VP have to try and execute their way back from Drum, but Dots has the cover. A 2 versus 3 now. Pasha and Dan, taken entirely surprised, had to try and peel themselves back from the Samurai side towards where the site is. A great read on a gap in the hold, a bit bloodier than they maybe wanted, but swinging the glass isn't quite able to net themselves the result. Up down the stairs, and it's just towards the end of it, traded out. Technically a 1 versus 1. Gonna throw the goo mine down. If Pasha can get out, they'll definitely try and play for the pickup.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to. I mean, unless Loban gets super aggressive, super aggro here and times it right, of which he starts to make his play, but the pickup for Pasha has already come through successfully. Nate's not thrown, honestly, all that correctly. Missing out on the drum, got banked off to the left side of the mezzanine. There is time, but I love this prone play for Pasha. Loban has to be wary of this. He should know full well that there are 2 players, and he should have spotted him. Prone, close right. Lovely tap with the Vendetta. Keeps it up against Dan, takes the fight, but he ended up shooting the drum. 30 seconds still time. If he wants to go back for the diffuser, he can.
Reload, retract, replayed, no kit, but he does not want that right now. He wants to fight. He's able to find it on the other side of the dragon statue. It's a solid for either of them. There's a big chunk of health taken out of each other. Who will be the one to get that final scrape, that final bite? 10 seconds, has to push the fight. No other option at this, and it's Dan! Clutches out that round for VP.
I don't want to be too critical, but there was so much space and time to at least grab the kit. I'm not saying you had to then play the plan, but what it does is it provides you with another option. And by providing you with another option, it means that for VP, they have to respect that option, right? So then they have to be a little bit more wary. If he starts running back to site, I have to follow.
Yep. Great read from w7m as well to see that they could try and explode their way on towards the site. It became a heavy trade game. We'll see the sort of breakdown here. That's it. Dash saw the opportunity. There was coverage from Joystick here, but at the same time, they moved their way towards the top of the black stairs. And then the glass just shut out. The perfect placement. The fact that that was a down, not a death. It would have put it into an earlier 1 versus 1. A brilliant take around the side. And I mean, at that point, it is just a showdown. They know where each other are. They're playing with similar sort of guns and power and that. And well, it goes the favor of Virtus.pro, but a massively explosive start there from w7m.
A much more important start, though, for Virtus.pro. I mean, it'll do their confidence a world of good, because it was 5 rounds on the board straight from w7m to close out Clubhouse. You are beginning on Skyscraper as well. You need those defensive rounds. They could not ill afford for w7m to start this second map, your insta-ban map, with an attacking round. It just puts the mental in the bin to begin with, and then you have to claw back that momentum and hope and belief to just win a round in that fashion as well. Not only do you win it, but you also win it in a bit of a scrappy, clutch affair. That's a good start for VP. They can reset now coming into the second round, try and be a little bit more fortified on the defense, not allow w7m to just push in oh so aggressively.
Well, the final strand of the hold is shot out, and they have themselves a rotate. The pressure here on towards Samurai window, seeing if anyone's holding on towards the other side of the armor, but currently not. They pull themselves, reposition, and Pasha explores the outside once again as Dash wants to clear his way here, cutting the map in half. Now, the line that you have to cross is the one along Drum that sort of sets yourself up. Danish and Shrine, he's keeping the eyes on one side, joysticks towards Drum itself, and that's what they're going to try and steady across. Force those players out of position rather than just strike the site, because it's a little, always awkward to pull yourself in towards Skyscraper with how it gets compartmentalized into all these different small boxy rooms and spaces. It's easier to just sort of structure it, have the Nomad Edge out behind you, and then push forward from the top of the 2 stair sets. Here it is, the start of that pressure. A Flores drone that wants to remove the shield. Hopefully, this will be Lobin that catches it, but Volps is actually the one that gets down, always gets Dodes, and Joystick's able to find 2 in the mix of it. Goes to the pistol, drops himself down, and Lobin goes down in a Frostmat as he hops in towards the window as well on Shrine. Suddenly, they've sort of taken the bait here, W7M, but Virtus.pro, they're able to come out on top. There's a little bit of a swap to the other side, but with 2 goo mines in pocket, the damage will tick a bit.
Yeah, they've really played into a pretty default defense of Exhibition and Office, where you just go for the horizontal across. Dots does get one. To be fair, Joystick very low. Still a lot of time. Lobin's probably the issue. I mean, Dots doesn't really have the biggest ult right now.
Oh,
Get anything? No, they both fall at the exact same moment, and it is a round win confirmed for Virtus.pro. Well deserved. Really good battle in the middle portion of the round. That's something going back to Clubhouse, and even in the opening round where W7M have been trying to go for this like mid-round rush a lot of the times when they're attacking. And this time, Virtus.pro were the aggressors. They were the ones actually happy to take that fight, and then they can just kind of sweep back over towards Office and Exhibition, hold strong defensively. There's only 2 players left pushing. They're both wounded and not really in a good way, and they've just got the numbers. Really well executed round, but yeah, 90 seconds on the clock. Volps does get the opening pick, but this is where Virtus.pro push back. They keep the battle going. Look at the push from Joystick to go and get these kills. He's pushing through Drum. He's going towards the mezzanine. He's not just falling back to site, looking to play defense. So they got aggressive on the defense, and that's how Virtus.pro go and win that round. Really good start. 2 rounds already, again, on a map that we haven't seen from them since SI last year.
how much do they need on this half?
And they did win that map.
They did win that
They're on
map.
a 1-0 streak.
And back then, what they needed on the half was they were able to get themselves 2 sort of attacks across the entire thing, all the way on towards OT. It was 4-2 half, 4-2 half, and then 2 in all the way across defense. Truly was the maker of the kings of that showdown. Will it be the same here? Obviously, we saw a bit of a split on the previous map. We saw heavy blocks of rounds traded, and that sort of became the problem because VP just could not crack the holds on the second half.
Unfortunately, it looks like we will get a rehost here for Skyscraper, as we did on Clubhouse too.
Similar time. Oh, it
was a 2-2 rehost.
Yeah, it was the 4th round. So it's just every time we hit the number 2.
It's just the evil number 2.
Dang.
Do we get a pit stop here? I think we might. It could be potentially monitor issue. Man, they roughhousing on those monitors. He's just...
Get it out of there.
They don't mess around. We need to get like a... You know what? We need like in Formula 1 where they got like the pit stop timer. We need to get one of those.
Can we make like what? Well,
who's got the fastest monitor change-out time?
Of the refs.
of the refs.
If they're listening right now, if you were to say who the fastest monitor change-out, maybe it's like a list. It's like different events, right?
Yeah.
Fastest monitor change.
Depends on the track.
Yeah, we find ourselves here. They'll get themselves sorted. 2 rounds up, and you know, you sort of have to look at, I guess, what happened in that last round. Because the first was very aggressive, and it was a clutch out, right? They're in a 2 versus, I think, a 3, maybe even a 4 situation. Might have been a 3 versus 3 to a 2 versus 3. And then picking up the player, being in the positions that they were, the 2 of them locking in, w7m making the sort of choice of, let's try and go for the kills, let's go for the watch and the comeback instead of going for the plant, potentially. These are decisions they made. It's how it played out. The second round, though, they maybe just didn't have the full read. There was a lot of laser focus on towards Dan. We saw the Flores drone, the Rotero rolling in. Dan actually was the first to go down on the sort of engagement. The pressure came across in towards his face, but then from then on, Joystick cuts his way across from the drum position. They didn't seem fully aware of him, at least to that level. There was
or probably even expecting it, to be honest.
Yeah. And, you know, you're sort of wondering if maybe this is a moment where W7M can go back to checking and rechecking those sort of corners of resistance. As I said at the time,
They can slow it down.
yeah,
Their
exactly.
pacing right now, especially for Skyscraper, is quite fast. I think if you were to compare it to the more default-orientated setups that we see from teams on this map, like w7m are pretty clearly trying to be aggressive in the middle portion of the round. So when it gets to about that, let's say minute-and-a-half mark, that's when you're seeing w7m really ramp up the pressure. They did it on Clubhouse. They did it successfully on Clubhouse. But a Skyscraper, it can be a little bit more difficult because you've got so many choke points that you still need to deal with. And then if you've got, you know, players like Joystick that just want to then push forward and take those fights and you're not ready for it, 2 kills just like that makes it really easy for the defense. What's concerning as well for w7m is to open up the 2 rounds. And let's be honest, they probably should have won the first round, but they've got the opening kills in the first 2 rounds on the attack of Skyscraper and unable to then take that advantage and convert it into a round win is probably disappointing, but it's good news for Virtus.pro because they're winning these rounds when they haven't necessarily had the perfect start in the rounds.
Yeah.
Again, on a map that we don't really have high expectations of for VP. And to be fair, it wouldn't really be too surprising if VP win this map because it then would be similar to Montreal in the semi-final. First map goes the way of w7m, rather convincingly. 7-3 on Labs, it wasn't a contest. And then it was VP that answered back on Cafe, 7-4. Again, rather convincingly, not big contest. And then the Chalet was a 3-3 half, and then 4 in a row to w7m to close out and book their place obviously in the grand final. But yeah, I think that for Virtus.pro, this is a good confidence builder. And also, if they can win this map, I think it was Fox that mentioned it, then it's like, hey, suddenly you got a map that you can throw back into the map pool.
Yeah.
So it widens that map pool as the tournament goes on.
And it was always one of those things. I said before that there were question marks on the depth of the map pool that Virtus.pro had as well, how many different places they could take themselves into. And
that was the issue in the semi-final.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the biggest thing for me, was that their Cafe was great and they got their Cafe. But on the other maps, just like Chalet didn't seem to vibe with them. Labs didn't seem to vibe with them. So there's a couple of maps already. Then you throw in Skyscraper, Instaban, etc. as we're getting back into the game now. But if they can add the Skyscraper in, I didn't think their Clubhouse was by any means awful. I think against lesser teams they can be more than fine on a map like that. So I think VP's map pool can certainly be improved, but it's not completely awful by any means. We're talking about the very high level, right? Like that's the difference.
With that little jazzy stinger, we're back in. We find, honestly, I keep doing like a little piano hand gesture every single time. I wasn't hearing it a lot, and then Tim, Ace of Pyrite, started singing it, and now
Does anyone actually call Tim Ace of Pyrite? It's either Tim or Ace.
It's Tim or Ace. Yeah. Listen, I want to use this full legal name.
Full legal name?
Ace of Pyrite.
Ace of Pyrite.
Where else do you think he gets the name from?
It's like Des. Does anyone say Desert Shoot?
I say Derrent, and I picked that up. Yeah, I picked that up from Parker. He just started going Derrent, Dare Bear. They are very close, those two. I think they live together. Anyway, 2-0. We find ourselves here back in towards the game with a quiet bit of a break on towards the tertiary site. Now, Skyscraper loves having this one be the attacker's site. Usually you're very accustomed to 4-2 halves in this sort of setup, in this sort of situation. There's going to be, as I said, the data that we have from the last time that they played Skyscraper for Virtus.pro was 4-2 halves and was only overtime defensive round win.
Oh,
this
there's one.
Quick fight. You said you wanted them to slow down, but, well, they pulled apart and then
in fairness,
pulled back.
that's Pasha just being probably overly aggressive. So, I mean, w7m aren't necessarily the ones doing too much wrong. Dodes is playing the Jackal. That's his role. Horizontal entry, push across from Office and Exhibition, try and sweep through Drum Mezzanine. You want to eventually clear out Tea Room and Karaoke for that vert above the site. I don't know why Pasha is contesting over there.
From this point onwards, let's see if they can try and capitalize on the fact. I like that they got the kill, they got the take, and they pulled themselves back out. We've often seen them on this map just sort of keep sending and keep pushing and keep trying to pull that trade in. Here, they realize that let's not give them that option. Let's not try and give them the chance at leveling this off. They've been able to pull the trades before. We'll slow everything down. Looking to try and get the drone that was tucked up in towards the top of Karaoke. In the meantime, it's still proposing yourself. This long line that cuts through the middle of the map, across the side of Drum, back towards the top of Shrine. That is going to be their next point of attention as they slip their way in. It's the verticality above the site itself. Now, will they try and overstay their welcome? The track is going to pull one player as Dash pulls joystick, removes them, and at this point, they're just getting out of there quickly down the black stairs. Not going to see what happens after the end of those flashes because, well, with a minute, you're not going to try and find the trade situation.
What? How was that just transpired? Poor Volps cops one in the back of the head from a teammate. They always wanted to get on the move with the shotgun. There was one up close. Shepard losing his life. There's Dodes and Dots, both able to combine. Only one left for Virtus.pro. Dan, well, he is the man. He was in Montreal, especially on Cafe, where he was exciting. So many clutch plays from Dan on that map. And he will need to do something similar now in this third round if VP to find a third round. A 1v3, but he is also getting tracked by the IDOX scanner of Dodes. Safely into Barbecue goes Dots to get the diffuser on the ground, and Dash is always just covering nicely, and w7m will find themselves an attacking round on Skyscraper.
Let's see what happened with that team kill. I'm assuming it'll be paid up at some point.
Probably the classic case of like someone's just walked in front of you at the very moment that you shoot, and it's not really your fault. It's probably more your teammate's fault. That's a guess. I mean, we didn't see it.
Accidents happen.
Accidents do happen, yeah, to everyone.
It was a great close down there.
I was more so confused because it's not like they were fighting. Like no one was fighting.
I think that's why I'm a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, that's super unlucky. That's probably better than actually like someone walking in front of you. That's no one's fault at that point. Like
that
no
was
one's done
through
anything
like
wrong.
too soft.
That's just hilarious.
Too soft, and you accidentally headshot your teammate. That's just funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
2-1, and as I said, that's sort of not the precious side. It's gonna be the primary of the tertiary defense here for Virtus.pro, and w7m weren't a million miles away last time they were here, so I'm super curious to see what they decide to change up about it, really. Last time there was obviously the play with the Glaz, the pressure to try and get themselves in on the Deimos, which is still sticking around, and otherwise actually it's only really the Glaz to the Bs and the Twitch that's been brought in. They'll see if rather than playing on the hard destruction side of the ace that they had and get inside those smokes, let's just slow this down, bring it back to a gun game, get control of the opposite side, get VIP stairs, air jabbed off, keep the control here. The Deimos to try and force the players out to make things not uncomfortable. And then we're being caught in the chance of a Frostmat as well, bouncing grenades and removing what else is on the other side of it. So as soon as they go for the hop, the fight is going to be a bit cleaner. In fact, actually, it was a Goyo canister that was otherwise prepped up right against that window.
Pasha just had a run out just for information.
Yeah.
They could just double back in. They've got a pretty big horizontal stretch of their defense right now, trying to just cover as much of that top floor of Skyscraper as possible. Pretty much a default looking setup, and then they'll fall back. Dodos has snuck in though, but Pasha ready for it. So 2 rounds in a row, the Pasha's opted to try and be aggressive for VP. Didn't work in the previous round, but it does work here. Gets rid of the Deimos.
He is still on cam though. We saw they had a fair few that was locked around that area, and Dodes can keep his eyes on that. But with the man disadvantage, how are they going to start to try and push themselves here? Will they cut their way up towards the stair sets as they went for the sort of rushy, quickie play before, or let's see if they can maybe try and cut the map in half, find their way to get some control over towards the players that are wanting to rotate from the bar side. There's Shepard getting Volp, so it's not going to be the swinger towards the side as Dan and Lobin does pop in towards Shepard and gets one, but now he is all that is left. They went for plan A that I listed, which is a quick punch in towards the site and on towards the window on the back of the Bs, but, oh, well, there's one, but nothing much more than then. 3-1.
You think that's really plan A?
It was plan A when they'd lost friends.
So that's plan B.
Yeah.
I think that the issue in that round for w7m, I mean, Pasha aside, like so Dodes goes for the solo push on the office side, right?
Yep.
What happens if you have an extra player there? Your trade potential is increased from 0 to something, right?
Yeah.
So it's already an exponential increase. So I don't know why they're not just sweeping across as a team, taking the battles towards the drum side of the map. Pash has already shown he's aggressive, he's pushing out, and they're always going to have that horizontal extension to the office and exhibition side. It's a pretty normal setup when you're defending T-Room and Karaoke. So why are you solo pushing? And that's not Dota's fault. You know, he's playing Deimos, he's sneaking in, yada, yada, yada. It's more the team dynamic. Why are we not pushing as a team there to clear that out, push them back, and then you can go and spread around the balcony and put pressure around the site like that. Instead, the solo push gets punished, no trade potential. VP have numbers, W7M just start sending it into site and repelling in and dying, and it's all a bit of a mess. Really well played from VP. 4 rounds for them would be, you know, that par for the course. I think.
Yeah.
It's like it's typically T-Room Karaoke, Office and Exhibition. You win those twice, you probably lose the Tertiary, Barbecue Kitchen twice.
And then you go to OT.
Do we even need to play the game?
No, I think we can just fast forward. I mean, that's the sort of risk, right? But, you know, I'm not entirely sure if W7M will be starting on the defense. Obviously, you would assume in the overtime, obviously, you would assume that they would if it's entirely their choice, but they also chose to attack on the previous map, so they are.
So they got double defense on OT if it does go that way for W7M.
Well, we'll see if they can maybe get themselves the foot up an even half, and they're in such a good position, and it's going to come down to obviously this site, the growth from this point onwards. The burn, Poppin, unfortunately, into a little bit of cleanup work, but it's not the end of the world. The pressure, again, on towards the exhibition window, down towards the Samurai Armor, that little tucked rotate that can play between the sites itself, where Shepard has got himself holed up and holding on, but, you know, the work has to begin further out, and this is what I said before. What happened and what went wrong here, and what did they not know, and how have they improved that? Last time they got all the pressure onto Dan, but then Joystick bit back with a 2K, maybe even a third.
This is better though. They're actually respecting Virtus.pro and their extension defensively. Although Dan just finds a kill onto Loban outside the window from Dragon, and so that's a good start to the round again for Virtus.pro. 2 rounds in a row now that they've got those opening kills. They're doing well in the conversions. This is a bit sloppy and a bit messy right now on the attack from W7M. This might be one of the worst rounds we've seen from them in the series. VP are punishing W7M's sloppiness. They are getting shredded here in the 5th round. Joystick as well with 3. And only Doda's left. It will be a 4-1 lead for Virtus.pro. Comfortably taking out the primary sites. Of course, the Tertiary to follow after this will be a good opportunity for W7M, but this is a very concerning round.
They've just been shut down. Entirely shut down. Entirely shut down.
Sloppy. Lobin gets caught. Window looking in towards Statue and just gets his head taken off. Everyone else starts to then rush around. So dots on the floor is just the way that his movement through the doorway was just awful. Gets killed comfortably. VP are good enough, very good enough, that they will punish errors and mistakes just as much as W7M will do. 4-1 lead for Virtus.pro here on the second map of the series. I don't know, why is this an insta-ban for them? They're playing it fine.
Surprise. Saving strats. Hiding the map. There's a list. Do you want the list of the usual excuses for moments like this? I mean, it's well played together, but it's also, if you look at Clubhouse, and maybe this is part of the story, maybe not, you know, for all the conversations about teams, what maps they love, what maps they play, everybody will technically play every single map in the pool. You've got to learn it. It's your job.
So 4 for Joystick in that round.
He had a great round, but at the same time, it also means that W7M on Clubhouse, they had a lot of preparation against them. Look at how they played against it, and why they were so good at shutting it down is because they had all the answers towards the holds. It was on the sort of flip side of it that they knew how to slow down Virtus.pro. They knew how Virtus.pro liked to clear. They had all the data. Here they don't. And that's the sort of thing that might be stressing them out here. They're having to learn and sightsee and sort of get a taste of all of Virtus.pro's holds for the first time, firsthand, inside the game. And it's obviously not quite netting them the same confidence that they had before. And you were right, Joystick did great in that position, but look at how much they tried to shut him down. They had the Selmas that had broken open the connecting wall in towards Geisha and T-Room backside, or even the pressure on towards T-Room, sorry. From that deep angle, they were trying to contest it and force out Joystick first instead, and they just could not. remove him from that position. Here, their final chance, and it is so much quicker. 30 seconds are gone. They are already pressed up against the door of gold here. They really want to break their way in towards T-Room. Now, there is some of the pressure, the double pair of drones on, and they're able to net one. They're looking for the second on the main stairs, but nothing is quite offered to them. They peel their way back, and Pasha's just going to hold the angle for a second. Doesn't want to entirely give the position, slips his way up towards Geisha.
Good little drone here onto Dan's position, top of Black Stairs. A little bit slower in their approach this round for w7m. Definitely responding to the way that VP have been playing defensively, which is a really good measure for Virtus.pro because they're the ones that are, or at least have been, really setting the pace of the round. When they're aggressive, they're forcing the fights. When they're falling back to side, w7m have to respect that, slow to push in. They were sloppy in the previous round because VP were holding up good power positions, didn't back down. And this is the kind of culmination of it all where w7m are just a little slower in their approach, but they're going to pick up that pace. Again, it's around that minute 20, minute 30. This is when w7m want to get going, so there's a lot of time left on the clock to reevaluate after this aggression. They find the kills, though, in quick succession, and this is all too comfortable and easy. Right now for w7m, as always, does get one back. Needs another one quickly. He does find it. Low on health, eventually taken down. He took a couple with him, but unfortunately still 3 up for w7m. Only Shepard remains for Virtus.pro, and it seems as if that tertiary site, once again, is going to go the way of the attacking team unless Shepard pulls off a huge 1v3.
I mean, it's another 1v3 in this position as well. Obviously, it's how the last one came down. They're about to cut him in half from his left shoulder. Or they don't know, but there's a second in that position. He does down dots. Now they know where he is. They're circling around either side. He's going to pop up, but he can't quite find the single engagement. I was sure that Grim knew where he was, and then suddenly he's crouching around the corner. But they secure themselves the 2. We said it was all that they would sort of aim for. It's what most teams do at this point. They now have their defense to build themselves back in. If it plays out exactly how it did before, I mean, within 2 rounds, we'll be quickly locked back in a deadlock. Remember as well, in the map before, what happened? When we started to cook ourselves on the second half of the game, a flawless defensive half for w7m on Club.
Yeah, it was a 4-2 half of Virtus.pro in the first half defense, and then 5 in a row to w7m. And look, the same could very well happen here, but unfortunately, Shepard just never really had the room to be able to stand up there because of that pressure coming in towards Sushi. And I just wonder if maybe he opted for the right fight. I feel like maybe he should have gone the inverse, but he was always in a very difficult position.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to be very curious. It's one thing to play Skyscraper defense well. It's another thing to be able to attack.
Oh, 100%.
And because Virtus.pro, we haven't really seen them play this map for a very, very long time. This is where my curiosity is spiked, because I need to see how VP are going to really attack the objectives here. Are they going to be slow-paced? Are they going to respect w7m's sort of mobility? We saw a lot of that on Clubhouse. I imagine they will play in a pretty similar fashion as well on Skyscraper. And so they're going to be very, very careful when they're making these pushes. For Virtus.pro, the first step is you've just got to have good, solid entries, get into the map, get as much map control as possible, and take your fights on your terms, and that'll set you up for success. But again, I'm not surprised already to see Dash over towards Geisha. We haven't actually seen a lot of fights towards Geisha in this first half that has transpired. They'll go for jump outs, they'll go for run outs, they'll be aggressive, they will push positions like Drum, and Dodas gets the first kill. And hey, the beauty of the dock, the stim pistol to back to full health, you get rid of joystick, no bees will be buzzing in this round.
Joystick gone, a classic gun, and one who's obviously had his big impact rounds throughout this game so far. The halves that he's been able to take some restive control over, no longer gonna be seen. The pressure of this conversations of man advantage have now fallen in. The Selma unfortunately catches the top of the door. The second, well, that one will make its way across and open up a bit of an angle. They're trying to catch that player in the middle, and it's a little bit too late. Pasha does find Dash from the cross. Geisha is theirs. but it's come at the cost of a couple of bits of utility and a lot of the health of your Bucks. If they're trying to get some of this clarity across, they might find themselves suddenly under a bit of damage. Now, though, with a minute 30 gone, with the first boots inside the building on the opposite side, you've still got to cross the power position that you played so well. Volps is in that joystick drum roll. He's going to be the one trying to bang the heads of anyone that gets a bit close, and you can see the pings in the roll with the Doc on support as well. They have so much they can work with here.
It's a stack now. Black Stairs, Karaoke, Shepard droning to get some information onto Vault. Battle, Dodes, of course, can heal back up, and will do so with the Stim Pistol. They don't fall well, though. Double stack over towards Statue. Dan, Pasha, both low, always as well, not particularly healthy. And so this is looking like a very difficult ask now of Virtus.pro with little time. They still have to push through so many choke points. And if w7m want, there's enough time in the round now, or not enough time in the round, they can easily push back to side.
He knows he's there. They're around each other. They were 4 feet away, and Pasha pops the kill because all the attention was being driven underneath. Dan
Time.
darted his way across, but 20 seconds, and it's going to have to turn into this final sprint. They're putting the pressure on, and Lobin knocks them out. Wasn't the man with the kit, so it's not the biggest end of the world, but here comes the charge and the play. Shepard, he's droning the gunners in at this point. He needs to make his way in towards Terrace, but he is alone with the kit, and he's got a player on the minibar. Dan gets the control of the back-end player on the A side, but it's 2 fights, too close, too much of a charge. There's the drop. He just has to sit and wait for the minibar.
Wow, well played from Lobin. I mean, under a lot of pressure there. He was losing teammates left and right. Shepard was by himself with the diffuser, as you pointed out, Emmy. Didn't really have a lot of help, so he had to just get aggressive, start pushing in, dump those flashes, see if he can go through minibar, and ultimately Lobin was just able to stand strong. He was half white. He still then had to make a decision. Do I hide, avoid the flashes, or take the fight? He opts to take the fight, gets the kill, kit onto the floor, no time left, and w7m able to collect the round to begin the second half. But it was a close one. I mean, in fairness to Virtus.pro, I thought that they managed that round pretty well, all things considered. After losing one really early, they did not have the grim whatsoever.
4-3, and it was close. Obviously, the difference could have been 10 seconds, maybe even less than that. If you think about the push, the charge towards it, they played it brilliantly. As you said, they pointed themselves out. They were very direct when they needed to try and isolate 1 versus 1's opportunity knocked. And w7m were there to answer the door and say, why, yes, I would like to kill a Virtus.pro player whilst I have the opportunity for a 1 versus 1. Whether it was the run out and the swing on towards Pasha trying to make their way around, whether it was there, the fight onto minibar, and then just sitting and resting and waiting, it was something we saw them do on the previous map. It was a little bit tighter here, but a round win's a round win, a point is a point, and it's 1 point closer towards pulling themselves level. As I said, you're going to have these fights back and forth. The top floor is always going to be a brawl. If Virtus.pro can find a way to just pull one of these top floor sites into their control, I mean, then suddenly you've got a terrifying rest of this map.
So you've got double clear out utility, Capital, Grim. You can send the Kuan Hive Launcher Bees in. You've got, of course, the bolts from the Capital, and then double shield sends to kind of round it all off with the light screens of the ROU to block off a lot of vision. At some point in this round, VP will execute based on the operators that they have. It needs to all be in sync. Everyone has to know their job and when to go. And if you lose any member here, it's going to then put a bit of a chink into that game plan where you're going to lose a big significant piece, whether it's the Capital or the Grim. They do get the opening kill on the Vault, which is quite handy. Vault struggling a little bit since the rehost 1 and 6 overall on this particular map, 2 and 7. And I like this lineup for Virtus.pro. They've got a lot of win conditions in this lineup.
And as you said, Volp's gone. There's a C4 that's been utilized there from Dash as well, so those shields will feel themselves a little bit stronger, and well, the vertical is what they want to get the lockdown here. Dan makes his way in via the pantry, slow and steady, but joystick.
You lose the Sens now.
I mean, that's a big, big part as well. If you've got a Sens, you've got a very Sens-driven plan, and at this point, you might not have the same coverage, but you do still have, obviously, the smokes, canisters in the pocket of Pasha. You've got the smoke bolts, and always, they have plan Bs for the sort of, you know, dissolving a vision that they want to get across. It might not be as direct and as flat as they wanted, or as controlled. The motion up towards the break that nobody's watching currently. Shields either side, and there's that coverage of the vision. There's a bit of a spray, but a shield is the perfect one to make their way through. But they've actually proposed themselves here. Titan with the wall reinforced.
Kit's not in sight though, so yeah, they're starting to get in towards Karaoke. They've just dropped their hand and juggled over the Kit towards Always. Now still on the exterior, still needs to make his way into the building, and they lose Pasha, taking the fight, but they still don't have that diffuser in a good position. Always is just making his way into the building now. Push up Black Stairs, unsuccessful for Dots though. 3 from Dan, and he's making good use of the Blackbeard. Finally, Always now towards Black Stairs. Can make his way into the site. It's a quad though from Dan. Shepard to finish it all off, and Virtus.pro from out of nowhere steal this round away from w7m. They lost the Sands. They probably didn't have the best look into the round until they just waltzed into sight. The shields ended up being a big part of their win condition. Dan on the Blackbeard was just immovable. Gets 4 kills. They couldn't clear him out of Karaoke. And the irony in all of that is I was watching on the second monitor. That diffuser gets juggled over, and then it's being ran around the map. At no point did it ever even get into the site.
I think they didn't expect to have the reinforced wall between the two sides. Obviously, the angle where they moved the shield into, you could see him sort of be like, oh, this is a bit open. If we just secured this kill inside the site and we watch the top of the Black Stairs, then we've certainly got this opportunity. Obviously, Dan with a 4K, great. A great demonstration of what new Blackbeard is. We saw the slow, sort of steady, methodical checking underneath, clearing their way up towards it. They kept themselves safe. They did some intel gathering, but then 2 of those kills, the last 2 that we got to watch, they were flank watching. They had to read someone was going to try and push their way up the stairs. They were more than ready for it. They had to watch on the player that was inside, waiting for support to come through. Great take onto the blitz there, and here, there's the one on towards the flank watch. This one as well. I mean, it's Blackbeard's traditional role is to make sure that nobody sneaks up behind you, and Dan rocked it pretty well. Only got the 4K, so Fresh doesn't have to sort of keep... the players have been popping off. He's donating.
I wish he had got the 5K.
I mean, yeah, right?
Yeah. Charity.
We love charity.
We do. Very, you know, reminds me, and a little bit reminiscent of the semi-final in Montreal. Dan was very instrumental on Cafe, second map of that series, and I recall when he had a big clutch, I think it was Fireplace playing behind the bomb chassis, he got a 3K, and that really set the tone for VP to go on and win that particular map. Well, deja vu here now coming in. I know it's Skyscraper, but a similar point in the map. You know, it's 4-3, now 5-3. Because of a very instrumental round from Dan. 9-3 since the rehost, 10-4 overall, so he has got to double digits. Only one inside of the server with those numbers.
Being able to take Karaoke, especially in a manner like that, that's going to be the moment where you start to thinking, okay, how much longer are we going to be on this map right now? There's a slightly different approach, but a slightly different defense as well. You've still got Dan on the Blackbeard, the man of the moment of the previous round here, and the Sense is back on the board as well. But
a sweep across that they might opt for. A slower pace throughout this round for Virtus.pro, although w7m want to be the ones to pick up that pace by forcing pressure over towards Exhibition. Dodes, you got Loban as well. Holding currently inside of Office. But I would imagine the next 10-15 seconds, w7m will try and bring reinforcements back. They really will want to lock down that drum mezzanine position.
And the C4 being shot out as it got thrown out of Exhibition window was a huge moment. It could have potentially been a kill or 2 there. So now instead they've just sort of holding themselves with guns. They're more than capable, but the rotate comes around the other side. Now, one of the things that they don't really have is a direct watch on towards the chance at a flank. We saw a couple of those motions, and yeah, it was shut down by the combination of being in the right place with the right attention. But from what the dependence of the Nomad was for w7m to Virtus.pro not feeling like they wanted, it does mean that they're playing a bit of a risk here on a map that does support big, wide rotations across the vast space.
I mean, what's interesting is the way that w7m is still setting up defensively. Loban is just hanging around Lounge. Dota's still over towards Statue, so they've still got this big extension. They've still also not really had that battle towards the drum and the mezzanine. Virtus.pro are all over the place. I mean, Always is looking like he's going to go and maybe come back to VIP? No, he's just going up onto the roof. So, I mean, I don't know really what VP want to do right now, but they do have the down onto Dots. That is significant. That has also been finished off by Dan. No gas babes for the final 40 seconds. And just like that, despite a little bit of a stall out, we are seeing VP now make their way towards the site. ROU goes up from joystick. Dan has gone and got himself the diffuser, and they're going to go for the hit.
I mean, he's still got a bit of a distance to run. By the time he gets there, he's maybe just going to have time to get this attempted once. Back up the stairs themselves. Obviously, the gadget you can turn on and off, and they've left Pasha and Joystick keeping an overwatch so they know the position's clear, and there's the room for the hop-in, but it's sprayed across. Now he's in the room. He's got the shield on his back. It's traded back and forth. Dash is about to be caught by Always, and there it is, sneaking their way up the stairs itself, but it's a post-plant situation. Joystick takes a lot of damage, but Dan is out of there with the shield, and there goes the trade again, Dan! I think he's got 7 kills. I'm choking almost as much as the hold was there. 7 kills on the top of the black stairs. Just from letting them hit against him, pushing his way up, pulling down. That Blackbeard is haunting that position and that hold.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a case of w7m just wondering whether or not they need to just change things up, because they're playing pretty much default conventional siege. They've got the extension towards Office and Exhibition. They want to deny that horizontal take. They do so successfully, and then they try to opt to fall back, but they're just losing players to that rush from VP. They've got so much pressure in terms of utility. The ROUs annoying, blocking so much sightline, but it's this early kill onto Dots. Like, you need the gas babe. That's what's going to help you alleviate that pressure from Virtus.pro, which is coming hard and fast towards the end of the round. The ROUs annoying, blocking a lot of vision. What's helpful against that? Things like gas babes, the smokes. It opts to put it back then onto VP, where it does the same to them. Annoying, obscures the vision, all of those kind of things. That smoke can be so handy, along with keeping Black Stairs control. So getting that kill onto Dots opened up so many pathways for Virtus.pro in that round, and so much so, a pathway for the kit itself to eventually make its way up to the site. So for w7m, they probably just didn't have enough pressure for that Black Stairs kit, which has happened now twice in a row, and they were too focused on denying the horizontal, too focused on that drum mezzanine side, because Virtus.pro were just never playing into it. They just avoided it completely.
Again, 7 kills Dan has got within about 5 square meters.
13 and 4 now.
Great play with a plant in the middle of it as well. Gonna stick on the Blackbeard and see if they can make it happen on the site that they did lose. w7m had this, but the worry now for w7m is if they want to get this one on OT, if they want to pull the full 4 points from taking this series, not only do they have to win this, they then have to go and win the site they've just lost twice in a row, quite convincingly, and then they have to go and win a new tertiary untested site.
Yeah, and if they lose this map, it becomes a lot harder for w7m to chase down Virtus.pro for that top spot, so that's something else that needs to be considered. Virtus.pro, if they get this map, they play Scars tomorrow, it's going to push them a lot closer to being comfortable in that #1 position in the group and giving them, you know, the best starting position going into phase 2. So 3 rounds required of w7m, but I hate to tell you, Amy, I'm getting again that deja vu of the semi-final in Montreal, where it was one-sided first map, VP responds second map, one-sided. That's the same way that this series is playing out. These two teams are evenly matched, but the maps themselves aren't that even.
Blackbeard is back in the position where he has taken so many w7m players. Now he's moved away from it. Will he be as strong here? Well, he's about to find a close fight, but there is support on the swing, on Shrine. The first is actually taken him. He was scrappier than I think either of them wanted. Dodes does suffer, but most importantly, Dan is dead. Dan can die. Joystick gets the end. Dodes trades it out, but I'm pretty sure they'd be much happier having Dan.
It's a win for w7m.
But also look at w7m's kill. Dodes, he's 11-6. He was the one that's sort of putting in the same sort of numbers since the rehost as Dan.
Yeah, but from a utility perspective, the operator perspective, I would rather trade the Aruni for the Blackbeard.
Oh, yeah.
And also, Dan is just, well, the man, so...
Dan is the man. 40 seconds, though.
3 nitros, 2 impacts. I mean, a lot of utility for w7m, and as you mentioned, not a lot of time.
No, barely any. They've still got to try and find their way through what looks like a gauntlet. He's actually not going to try and iron mode it. The shotgun pops into the head of one, looks for the transfer onto the second. They're sort of stuck now. They're going to burn through the flash canisters. Will he try and make the dive past it as Joystick creeps his way up? Do they know about the Nook? They're about to find out. They're ready, watching and waiting. He's going to go for the swing. Can he get the first? He sees the side of it. There goes the second on the round. The pressure on towards Terrace. Holding off with a revolver dash. He wants to go for the swing as Volps gets some support. Big bits of damage. But with the grenades, where can he go? The afterlife and map 3. Virtus.pro. What a clean growth onto Skyscraper. Dan, a bit shocked and a bit surprised, but a fantastic map for him to play. All smiles as they pull themselves a guaranteed point, and then they will pull us into a third map.
Final. You think back, it was what, a 7-3 victory for w7m on Labs, and then that response on Cafe was really, really solid from VP. They do so again here on Skyscraper this time though, and in a very similar fashion. A 7-3 win, a third map now required, another point gain for VP that makes that top spot oh so much more difficult for w7m to acquire. And if VP go on and win that third map to come, well, that makes it pretty much almost impossible probably for w7m.
Well, let's take a breather and be back after the break.
We had so many questions going into Skyscraper about what to expect. Virtus.pro haven't played that for nearly a year, if not maybe a little over it.
The last SI.
It was crazy. I mean, this, for me, Fox, just goes to show how much effort has been put coming into SI between Montreal and now.
Absolutely. I mean, I love when teams hide something until the right moment, and we talked about it. This is the perfect time for them to pull it out, especially against the opponent of w7m. Who better as a test than the previous major champions? And I think Virtus.pro obviously looked really good. This angle right here, I mean, this was beautiful. And it was really a border that I guess Virtus.pro set up. That middle part of the map, Dragon to Drum, constantly, they were always getting their picks there. They were always slowing w7m down. There was no real moment for them to walk into the map, get that opening kill. As soon as they'd walk in, they got shut down. And I really loved how Virtus.pro was constantly being a wall for w7m.
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing that round right there. Back-to-back rounds for Dan on Blackbeard. How pivotal was that operator on that player?
I mean, extremely pivotal. I mean, one round he gets a 4K on, and then the next round he immediately gets a 3K. I mean, that was the big question of coming into Skyscraper was we couldn't see them do anything on their attack on Clubhouse. They were being shut down by w7m, literally on all fronts, where they were looking decent on their defenses. But that was the question here. Skyscraper is heavily defender-sided. We knew that they could get it done on defense. We knew that they could have a successful side. It was the question, what are you going to do on attack? And what did they do? They adapted. They conquered. They brought in a meta of using that Blackbeard, and specifically Dan on that Blackbeard was creating so much space. And Fox even said in the beginning, you know, they need to bring something for intel, and Dan was doing it on that Blackbeard and gaining that information and making it work through and through.
Yeah, and he obviously topped the charts for his team, and it was really good Blackbeard play. w7m was so aggressive, so they needed that shield. They needed a little bit more information to get into the map. And how Skyscraper's set up is just really tight hallways. It's always going to be a 1v1 when you get in. And I think that gave them the confidence that when they got on defense, they just played the classic Virtus.pro, slowing w7m down. w7m did not have a response for it.
So you think that this is a map that particularly favors Virtus.pro's playstyle in this, Fox?
Absolutely. I think when you think of Virtus.pro, it's consistency, it's slow, covering all the angles. They've run it 1,000 times, and they know exactly what they need to do. Skyscraper's a map we haven't seen them play in a long time. So they're going to try different things, and we've seen nothing but different things from Virtus.pro at this event. I'm happy they went back to the basics on a map that they haven't really played, and they looked really good on it.
Well, each team have taken their opponent's map pick. We now head to Border to decide this best of three.
Back it up, back it up. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Back it up, back it up. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Back to the back to the back to the back to the back. Take it back, take it back. Back it up, 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 back it up. Take it back, take it back. Back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Back it up, back it up. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Let me take it back to the realness, feel this. Back to the back to the back to the back to the back.
This match is heating up, and I tell you what, it's heating up so much that Virtus.pro had to send away the cameraman in the break. I know.
Oh my God.
It's heated.
That's
I mean, it's a
crazy.
close match. Do you feel that pressure? When you used to play, did you feel that pressure coming off the back of like
We always
close
told the
series?
camera guy to leave us alone.
I mean, it's just a moment.
You're a
of, like,
diva.
They're a really serious team. You're locked into the full best of 3 series. It's 1-1 each way. I wouldn't say it's pressure, but it's more of you want to stay focused in the moment, and you're hot off of a win. So that momentum, honestly, sometimes will carry teams to win a whole best of 3 series. So they don't want anything to affect them, get in their way, and stop them.
Getting away from the conversation of, I guess, team morale, all those things, we head to Border. This turns back to a best of 1. You can wipe clean the slate of Clubhouse. You don't have to worry about Skyscraper anymore. It's done and dusted. Where do your allegiances lie here, Lax?
If they can use the Blackbeard or any shield efficiently to get into the map, because again, that was a big question that Fox threw out, is how are they going to get into the map against a W7M setup? And we figured it out. They were using Blackbeard. So the question is, are they going to do that here when they reach that attacking half? Will they be using the Blackbeard? Will they be using a Monty? Will they be using a Blitz just to entry in and then play around that shield and information?
I agree. That'll be the biggest challenge because W7M doesn't need to change too much up. We talked about Skyscraper working in Virtus.pro's favor as a map. Border, on the other hand, is a map that heavily favors W7M. They love to play that map. It's a very aggressive map. So, and if there's anything Virtus.pro can do, it's bring those shields, get into the building. Don't let those opening picks stop them. And of course, work on the fundamentals of the aggression that Virtus.pro has been practicing for this event.
I think whether they're bringing shields or even banning out the shields and forcing more of their style of play could really benefit this Border matchup.
All right, well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get underway with our third and final map of the series. Xenox and Fluke to run you through all of the action.
Thank you very much, Rob. And yeah, we're here enjoying the jazzy grooves. We were not quite on the TikTok levels that I think Anne and the other analysts were, but to be honest, could you imagine Rob doing one?
Yeah, I actually could. I think Rob's got some good moves. He's honestly quite flexible.
Well, that's the challenge. We'll let production set him, because when they tell him to do it, he's got to do it.
He has to.
Ooh, that's an even split. 51 to 49. VP just edges over the line there, but still couldn't be closer unless it was dead on. And do you think the data backs that up, or do you think that's more just feeling and support?
I mean, honestly, the data said that Virtus.pro should never have won Skyscraper, yet they did. So you know what? You can throw the numbers out the window and just play off vibes. when it comes to Six Invitational. Anything can happen. We are all aware of it. Day 3, and w7m Virtus.pro putting on a banger. We've had a lot of really good matches, Emmy, where we've got all 3 maps. But I feel like every time that happens, the third map does sometimes fizzle out a little bit. And I kind of like w7m coming into Border for myself personally. They're 2-0 on it since September, so they haven't actually lost on it. And it's statistically their best attacking map, 62% attacker win rate. But it is also statistically their worst when it comes to defense, albeit that is tied with 2 other maps being Lair and Consulate. So when it comes to w7m, first half, do want to go back to the numbers and put some trust in them, w7m should probably need 4 to 5 rounds on the attack. Probably not the 5, but at least 4. 5 would be great. 4 is probably required.
Well, obviously we had almost the perfect barometer for this map, actually, because it was played by w7m against OXG the other day, and, well, it was won out by w7m. On the flip side of it, it would have been the decider in the VP OXG game, but they didn't actually reach it. VP, they were able to close it out within 2 maps. They did not see the third map, so now's the time to demonstrate it. They're obviously comfortable with it, comfortable in having it in this competition. Let's see if they can try and go toe-to-toe. A little bit of a lack of intel on Skyscraper was one of those things that seemed like it cost w7m, from how precise and well-played and put together their approaches were on Club to actually throwing yourself in the deep end against a team that reveals a map but once a year and then hides it away for another 12 months. It sort of showed, and they'll be frustrated. They didn't get the full 4 points from that showdown, but now's the chance to at least secure the 3.
It's a strange one, isn't it? So it's like a win streak of Skyscraper, 2 from 2 over the last 350 days.
It's like, yeah, we're undefeated on this map for a year. How often have you played it? Twice. But we won both of them.
Hey, and that's all that really matters. And honestly, I'm really happy for VP because I was worried for them going into Skyscraper. Clubhouse is such a weird map for Virtus.pro, where I think they think that they're better on it than they actually are, especially against some of these like really high caliber teams. But Border, I agree with the social prediction. This one's a bit of a coin flip. I think both teams have shown enough. If you do kind of want to look at Montreal a little bit, when they did meet, it went into that same fashion that we've had so far. w7m first map, VP second map, and then it was w7m on the third map.
In terms of the operator bans, 4 of the most common, as you're looking at not only what they do in the generic game space, but also what they would apply to Border here. Obviously, Monty, being that sort of step back in, didn't have it before and gonna have it again. The Kivas to control some of the open space, and the Fenrir to do exactly the same thing in a slightly different manner, and the Deimos. You're looking at all the soft and the play against it. Great for duelists, and the first duel is nobody's won. As of yet, Torres was keeping a keen eye over the walkway, but always is able to slip himself away. He was obviously the top-rated player before, but Dan, with another kill to an already impressive tally after the last map, is looking to see if he can scream up the rankings himself.
Yeah, +3 on the entry throughout the series now for Dan with that kill, so he's been super impactful, and there's a second one too. He has been...
That's 3!
Oh my goodness. But Dan, you've got to stop. It's only round 1. You've got an entire map still to get some kills. 3 on the board for Dan. And this round's done already. I mean, what a strong defensive start for Virtus.pro here on Border to be able to just clean sweep w7m's attack before it even really got going. They never really even got into that position where they could really formulate the attack that they wanted to. Virtus.pro just on the get-go. And yeah, finish it off with the ace, says Joystick, and that is a wonderful start for Virtus.pro on this decisive map of the series. A flawless start. Dan just setting a fire under his team and says, I'll carry you, come with me. He's leading the way in terms of kills for this roster throughout this entire series. Shepard being the other one with a good amount of frags, Joystick as well. So Virtus.pro have been very, very strong, and it all starts with Dan. That is a wonderful shot.
There, I mean, leaning into the firefight, Volts, a lot of faith. The change to the second pre-fight, it's a straight door. They sort of walked into the angles, and it's a big false start there for w7m. They kind of sacrificed themselves upon the altar of Dan in Fountain, and they'll scratch that one off and move along, dropping down towards Vent, rather than taking themselves on towards Bathroom instead. A lot of teams generally prefer to rotate themselves here, but Virtus.pro, often the traditionalists. will get themselves a similar sort of hold. The Skopos, though, on the board for Pasha. I think the first time this whole showdown.
Yeah, don't see the Skopos too often, let alone even on border. Poor old Volp's having a rough series though. Emmy 7 and 19, -2 on the entry. Make it 7 and 20 now, of course, because we just had the last round. So that's a little bit rough at the individual level.
I'm curious to see where w7m want to try and make their first point, their first route in. They've been very sort of sharp and snappy on their approach on previous sites, and here, well, for a map that doesn't always lend itself to entire hard destruction.
But bye-bye.
Bye-bye one of the shells, whether it was Atlas or Colossus. There is only now one left. No swapping, but as I was sort of saying, it's a very heavy, hard breach take here. They've obviously got the Thatcher, they've got themselves the ability to utilize this. They don't have to use it on the hard walls. They could if they didn't have the Flores, you know, crack open castles from range. It's getting yourself these angles, but they're just trying to break their way through, and Joystick sat watching, waiting. You can see that obviously Always is on a cam. Not sure who he's feeding the intel to, but well, it's just anything that might be trying to find its way up. There's the ping on the player. There's the pressure that's just being surmounted across Office. Instead, a new route, and they're making sure they keep themselves sprinting. The C4 a little premature as they stop themselves from the mad dash across. Joystick really wants to take this engagement. They've double stacked, and there's a player behind them. In fact, they're just going to get out of there. Great read. And now they get themselves to hold on to a 5-4 body balance before they got surrounded and burnt out.
90 seconds remaining in the round, and again for w7m, they need to find these attacking rounds, as I alluded to prior to this match. It's their best map when it comes to an attacker win rate, and it's their worst when it comes to defense. So Virtus.pro can get themselves, 3 to 4 defensive rounds. It's really going to make it quite difficult for w7m. They'll have to do something that doesn't quite get backed up by the numbers. Starting to open up the hatch over towards top metal for Dot, seeing if anyone wants to go for that flank back up the stairs. But right now, Virtus.pro happy to just hold over towards the site down in Bathroom, covering horizontally. Shepard as well over towards Supply, so they've got a lot of this first floor under control, but they have given up that third to w7m.
50 seconds, getting the hatches open, probably 30 when they go for the drop, and the drop is going to be hard to land. You're in the body disadvantage, and, well, now you're not. Can't even kill through the bars. Pasha is caught out, joins his other robot in robot heaven, and it leaves them 30 seconds to try and get themselves round and formulated.
They're offside completely right now for Virtus.pro because they're expecting w7m to want to rush in so they can cover off all of those angles into the site. They've got so much lobby pressure. Shepard as well towards Supply. No nitrocells remaining though.
They're in. They're planting. They took the hatch drop and now they're operating. Joystick inside the bathroom and rotate round to the top. There's a trade out, but it's a post plant. Shepard, he's fighting his way in towards Vent. He's holding either side of Dots, who's going to be surrounded, but there's cover from Dodes, and Dan gets Dodes. It is just Dots left who gets himself into the 1 versus 1. Dan drops. He's looking for the engagement, but Dots secures the round. Huge play when they needed it most. We're back to that territory of trading rounds out.
I mean, it's a curious decision for Virtus.pro. I kind of understand why they did what they did, probably expecting the drop, maybe expecting a run-through from front entrance, which there was one player that was stationed there for w7m, but by everyone evacuating the site, when that drop did come through and the plant was coming through, no one was close enough to actually stop it in time, and so the plan is successful. Now, if they had nitrocells, maybe a different story, then maybe it's the correct play. But you're giving up site, plan is successful, and you don't have top floor control.
That's the moment as well, obviously. Dan went above by himself, I believe, towards the end and reclaimed the verticality. There might have been somebody else that took the longer route through behind that we didn't see that engagement from, but still, it almost felt like when they did try that flood back in, it was a bit too spread out. You obviously had Joystick in the bathroom position. You had, I think it was Always trying to force his way towards the main door and the main way in towards the site itself, and via potentially detention or jail pressure. You had Dan going above. And
I mean, to be fair, I guess because they did lose top floor, you can't really sit site because of the vertical pressure. So I understand from that reasoning, but there was also no one that was super close to the site.
Yeah.
Like holding on the doorways and playing quick contact. They were all really far back, like Supply, back of main lobby. And so therefore, when w7m did get into the site, no one's close enough to contest.
One apiece. And, well, let's see if they can be the next to sort of set themselves back in, or actually, really, for the first time this series, we have truly traded rounds. Before it was, you know, they've wrested control from each other, they've cut each other's momentum off, but it's been good tying bits together or just grabbing control and having it back in towards their favor. Border loves to be a brawl, though. Border is brutal when you break it down, especially with teams that are more than happy to find themselves in towards gunfights. The hot pings on a player that's not going to sit around too long. Pasha is obviously on that armory position. He can try and cut himself back, but always is the one that cuts a man as Dan gets Dodez, gets a bit of revenge, even revealed on the camera, but it doesn't really matter. Seemingly the fight happened whilst players were trying to pick up and rotate towards sandwich window to cut off somebody else entirely.
Yeah, I just love the way that Virtus.pro are playing Border right now. They're not looking afraid. They're moving around the map quite well. They're taking these spawn peak battles. They're swinging, taking fights, always understanding with the shotgun up close. He's always just going to be able to find a quick kill. He does it again. 2 found in the same round from the same position. w7m not learning from their mistake prior in this round. Only mere seconds ago. 3 kills for Always. And it seems as if on the verge of a second round being found now for Virtus.pro. Don't tell me it's going to happen again.
He really wants it to, but it's Shepard that finds the back.
He's probably going to vault it at this point because it's 5v1.
Why not? He actually threw the C4, but he was too far away. Dan does get the end of it. I love that. It's like he was aggressively fishing. He followed the reel in, saying he's going to turn his back and run away from it, or he's going to aim down and try and shoot it. It didn't work. But if he had his secondary out, it probably would have. I mean, there's the timeout. An early call here from w7m.
Well, I mean, not much is working for them, is it? I mean, the one round that they did win came down to a dots 1v1. And even in that round, Virtus.pro honestly looked probably in a better shape for the vast majority of it.
Clarity coming through.
We need a translator.
No, but I think you know, with the gestures, you can get some.
You can get the body language for sure.
You can get some body language. Feels like he sort of.
They don't look stressed.
And,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not as if this is like a do or die elimination game, bottom of the group or anything like that. But
it's a sort of conversation that you can have with teams that are expected to win. Look at, for example, BDS, another tournament favorite apart from these other two who had a rough opening day. They bounce back later on.
Yeah.
If you're going to lose the game, it may as well be in the early stages where you could have conversations like this. It was very calm. It was learning from it. And, you know, different teams react in different ways, but still, the best teams are going to want to take these losses now so they can improve upon them, learn from them, and push it. Maybe, you know, in a few rounds, it might get a little bit more intense, but for now, you can see that they sort of have a little bit of clarity. And I don't speak Portuguese.
No.
But it felt like they were saying, do this, sort of get yourself here, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I wonder if they were talking about maybe playing more as a team, because a lot of that last round especially just kind of looked like a rank game where everyone just runs around, tries to get their solo entry, and then they die, and it just completely falls apart in terms of the round. Whereas for w7m, typically they play as that sort of team-orientated style so often on a lot of different maps. Right now on Border, they look a little disjointed in their approach, the way they're running around the map or trying to hit certain positions or clear out certain positions. You know, you think about, like, if you want East stairs, you've got to pop East stairs pressure, you can get passport control, push through from lobby, you can do all these kind of things as a team. They're not really doing that right now. It's a lot of this kind of like, I'm going to peek the window. I'm going to take on Always, who's got a shotgun up close. I'm going to do it by myself. It's like, they're not looking to me as if they've got a set plan in dealing with some of these power positions. That may change now out of the timeout.
I mean, that's the thing, right? But look at Dan. He's obviously pulled off a bit of a blinder in this area last time round. He's much more aggressive, and they realized it. Dan dashes himself back towards Fountain, where he pulled up 3 kills last time. There is some of the sort of depth in the shoulders of support as a full team push here comes through. You said you wanted it. It's starting to happen, but they're not quite able to pull the body out of the end of it. They've got to try and make something happen, and it's Dan under pressure, but underneath.
Yeah.
There's a bit of danger there from the Nook.
More importantly, though, it's w7m with, you know, 3-4 bodies all around the same area of the map, so they're playing more like a team, and then you can allow Loban on the Nook to go for that lurk, go for that roam, and he's found 2 on it as well. A successfully well-set play from w7m. w7m in this round as Dots also gets involved. Dan is very low inside of Fountain, so the trade was always going to happen as Joystick now by himself at a 1v4. A far better round from W7 on the attack. They had a set plan, a set play, and they've executed it perfectly as a set team. Much, much better.
And again, can't speak Portuguese, but if you can read body language, the gestures there from the whole team, to be honest, actually, was there you go.
It's a pretty classical sort of round. 3-4 bodies, same sort of area. We're going to hit the site. We know what we're going to do. And then Loban, go do your thing. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. They could have easily won that round, even if Loban had died by himself and it's a 5v4. But instead, the Nook lurk is perfect. He's putting... And it's also that kill onto Shepard. That is the Nook from Loban that's putting pressure onto an area where his 3 teammates are trying to hit.
Yeah.
So again, it's all still much more connected, and they flowed a lot better in that round because of it. Whereas the previous rounds, they're all just off doing their own thing. It's clearly not working. It's disjointed. That is a good example as to what w7m really opt to be doing for the remainder of this first half.
2-2. Hey, that thing that I said hadn't really happened to start to do. We're trading rounds, it's back and forth, but also look at the nature of the rounds. Armory now, back and forth to either team at this point in very different ways. The last time was a flawless, with Dan getting a 3K. It's an entirely different resurgence there from W7M. Now on towards Vent, where it did come down to the 1 versus 1 and the plant situation as well. But surely there's lessons learned there. Obviously during the timeout, Virtus.pro got just as much time to talk. We'll see if that's something where they're able to piece together maybe a way that they can feel more confident. They gave up the territory because they didn't trust being underneath the danger of what was lurking above on the verticality, but from this point onwards, a quick read through here of the Flores drones. They're sort of realizing that, well, maybe there isn't a huge amount in the way. Let's get rid of this castle barricade and we might be able to get a bit of a direct route on towards the site itself. They have the shield, and you can try and get yourself a bit of a reverse plant as the bees come out, the coverage of the smoke. Dots is in, the shield's on his back, and he's going to try and stick a plant. They're going fast, and Shepard does get one, but this should be a confirmed post plant right underneath the window, which is going to be so tough to retake. They move their way across and keep a body balance, but it's traded back and forth inside of 4 versus 2, but always is caught out deep on the run and the rotate to get 1 kill. But as I said, it's so awkward. They're going to have to try and play themselves up. The bees will give some of the game away. The castle on the window! Keep it in your pocket. They've got to rotate their way round and punch it. But at this point, Xenox, it's just hold on. Keep your nerve and keep the round.
Castle barricade just won you the round. They had no answer for it. And as you said, the rotate had to come through, but it was always going to be far too late. As soon as that castle barricade goes up, the round is done. An incredible, genius play from Dan. 3-2 lead for Virtus.pro. Another defensive round acquired on border is setting them up absolutely perfectly. Dan has been sensational in this series. And yeah, the plant did go down, but to the credit of VP, they were the ones finding the kills. Dots tried to get himself out of that position on the blitz, but he then made his side vulnerable, and he gets taken down straight away. And yeah, I mean, I think even Dan, he had no panic. He realized straight away, as soon as that castle barricade is up, we've won. He had someone to cover the single doorway on the long rotate.
I mean, to be fair, Shepard's cover, massive.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he pulled a triple kill.
By the time he got the kill, it was almost diffused anyway.
Oh, 100%. But I mean, I always have a soft spot for a castle play like that. There's something just so karmic about it that it's hard to put words in. It's a play that you can only really get in Siege, and it's so fundamentally Rainbow Six. It's great moment, and you know, cool as you like. He knew the game, he knew the play. He's 8-2. Dan across this map so far as well. He started strong, and that has just continued. 3-2. Will this be a deadlock half of back and forth? Or for the first time on border, can a team tie 2 rounds together? That's sort of the main question we have right now, because at this point, no one is really stepping down. Slight adaptation, not so much as a drive on towards the hard breach as it was last time. They've got themselves more in the chance at the aggression. They're not gone back to the Nook. It sort of worked well once, but they don't really want to double down on trying it.
Pass up pretty early into the round. That's better for w7m. And kind of going back to what you were talking about, whether this ends up being a bit back and forth. Border 56% defensive win rate at the tournament so far. Nice kill from Dots onto Always. Gets rid of the mute. And even though W7M's defense on this map isn't necessarily that great, I think 3-3-half is going to be fine for both teams and really sets us up for hopefully a standstill finish for this series. But this is an absolute slaughter in the 6th round. W7M, they just look pissed off. They look like they were so mad with the way that last round played out, losing it to a castle barricade. Talk about a swift response from W7M. Flawless to close out the half. 3-3, all tied up. And dare I say, I know I've referenced that semi-final of Montreal between these two teams, but the similarities are striking. We were in this very position on the 3rd map at 3-3, and then was W7M that went and won the next 4 rounds straight. That was on Chalet.
Wow.
Another tech.
Another tech.
Pause and another pit stop. Oh, I mean, it's in the midst of the battle as well. I mean, I feel like this is the kind of technical pause neither of the two teams would want.
No.
Halftime, final map, 3-3 scoreline, all tied up. A winner will be determined very shortly, but we hold for a pause now, unfortunately. And look, honestly, it's been back and forth, quite literally. No team has actually won 2 rounds in a row so far in that opening half.
Opened with a flawless for one team, ended with a flawless for the other as well. And it was just brilliant. I mean, we're obviously getting the full dissection of the kills there, but I think you put it very well. They were angry. The way they were just clearing and pushing and pushing and pushing. They followed down to the ends of the earth. It's a 5 versus 1, and they wanted it to be done.
Yeah.
They wanted to move on, and as you said, it's why it's probably frustrating for both teams having to take this moment to pause. It gives everybody a moment to pause at this point.
I don't want to pause, though. I want the game to continue.
I think
I'm loving it. This is a really, really good series. I mean, I wouldn't go as far to say that, obviously, it's not the best series that we've had so far. I think there's been some maybe better ones, but maybe even less quality in those. I think the quality in this series between these two teams has been a pretty high level. Yes, there's been mistakes and errors. That's always going to happen when you play 3 maps of Siege.
Yep.
But overall, if you look at the body of work, these two have put on an absolute show, and it's been a very enjoyable experience. I don't actually even know who deserves to win. You go back to the social prediction for this match, it was 51-49.
Yeah.
It's a coin flip right down to the end.
I mean, everybody at home who voted on that, yeah, you're pretty spot on right now. It is entirely even-handed. It's equal plays. It's equal amounts of successful plants to successful plant defuse.
Let's go. We're getting back in.
At this point, though, it's, you know, anyone's game. Who's going to be the first to wrest control? Will it be perfectly mirrored? We are not starting upstairs in Armory. We're actually down in Vent here. Dan is back on the Blackbeard. They have the Nomad this time to try and control the space. I sort of made comment about it on the previous map that it wasn't something that Virtus.pro were truly putting themselves behind. That direct sort of objective play of an operator set up to try and control it. Nomad is brilliant on border. You're looking at a very isolated rotate. There's only the 2 stairs unless you sort of bring in the man who Dodez is that can shake up some of the momentum with the jumping up of hatches, but just having some extra control, because the amount of times, to be fair, that we saw throughout this entire series, Virtus.pro being surprised by a W7M player coming up behind them, getting a kill, getting a moment, getting a knife, all the way back to the beginning of Clubhouse. Well, yeah, they have that within their arsenal now, and they have that within that controlled space. The solace of Dash. We've seen some great Solace play on this map. I wouldn't say I've seen any this tournament. We've only cast this map, I think, once before, and there are a couple of moments you can have them, but I think it's just going to be a bit of this aggressive drive.
So it comes down to a final couple of rounds now to determine which of these two teams will claim the majority of the points from what's been an epic duel. If VP can close this map out, first place is just going to be almost all but assured with a victory tomorrow against Scars. It will assure it. That's how close they are to topping this group.
I'm not entirely sure why the 2 smoke canisters were already deployed here. They didn't really catch anybody out. No one was close enough. There is a bit of damage done to Dan from the side on the left, and there's some run out of tension around the corner. The blinds come across. Dan wants to be the difference, but look, there's the motions I talked about. They're so good at this. W7M, they try and manipulate themselves into these little tricky positions on towards the door of Passport here. Get in underneath, get the angle up. Volps has the crossfire, and Virtus.pro, all of them pretty much, they're trying to force this problem, but it's not a problem that can be solved. Even amongst the Bees, Volps and Lobin are able to find one head each. You lose Dan, you lose Joystick.
Yeah, third opening kill as well for Lobin in only 4 rounds. So he's been able to be the entry for w7m. I know they're on the defense now, but he did it on the attack. Now also, you know, finding those early battles to go his way, even to begin on the defensive side in the second half. Sets them up nicely, 2-player advantage. 60 seconds for VP to try and get themselves back into this round, but it's going to be a difficult task in doing so. Lobin's low, has no gas babes though, so it doesn't even really matter too much if he does die on the smoke, as he's already expended those canisters.
At this point, 2 bodies missing, one of them being the Blackbeard and the sort of star player of that play. What are you going to try and get your drive through? Always. The initial top-rated player is able to find one underneath, but underneath what? He's inside the site. The rest of the players are above him, and he's going to see if he can make an opportunity. This is when the Solace should show up and do something, but nobody is close. We're suddenly in a post-plant situation, and at this point, w7m, they still have the man advantage. They can try and clear it. They have lots of time. It doesn't feel like it, but now with one more body gone, well, it feels pretty good. Will they be able to hold on to this? Will there be a response here? There's the shot through. Huge play there from Pasha, who gets himself out, concerned about the damage above, but Shepard has suddenly won vertical control. They're above it. They're around it. They've got to try and lock down Pasha, who's doing his best to find a fight, but he buys time. But a 1 versus 2. The vertical control is in their power. One of them's holding onto it. One of them's going for the coverage. They're spraying through. He just has to wait another 4 seconds. He can't find the angle. He's missing the player. He could not get the threaded needle. A difference of inches. And before a ref tells him to sit down, he's up and celebrating. Virtus.pro, they're not able to get it, but it was so much closer than it should have been.
Yeah, I mean, that was an absolutely tense round. We'd hate to probably be a fan of either of the 2 teams watching that one, because it really was the kind of round could go either way. Felt like Shepard was still in a really good position to find the kill, at the very least to stop that initial counter defuse towards the end. If he does that, at that point, even if he dies, they probably don't have the time. But this is such a messy round after the 5v3. The 5v3 at the start is clean from w7m, but it's like, how does always just walk into the site? Like, how does that even happen in the first place? And then Dash, I mean, I understand you get on the plant, you've got certainly a lot of bodies that can throw, but he just does it so early. They're not even worried about where are the remaining members of Virtus.pro. He then dies because of that bathroom pressure, that hold. Yeah, there's like 6 seconds left on the clock. That was so close. Shepard really was in a solid position to clutch that round for Virtus.pro. But w7m, for the first time on this map, and will be the first team to do so, get 2 rounds in a row.
Couldn't have been closer. And, you know, it's not the first from nothing. Here's something that we've seen from either of these teams too far. But, you know, if you're still going to sort of nitpick, you're still going to look at the problems that might have occurred there, the long fight that was, the heavy need to try and pull attention towards the top of these stairs, and it didn't quite net anything. It was some early usage of the smoke canisters as well, but they did get the kill, so I'm not going to sort of eye on that too much. The Blackbeard darting across, being caught by the player on towards break, and you can see that w7m, they're making sure that there's always this idea of pressure. They're so happy. Take a couple of steps to the side, put some attention on towards it, and keep the presence out, but there's more width coming through here from the approach of Virtus.pro. Sure, Dan and Joystick, the first 2 bodies gone last time, are once again trying to surmount the problem that is East, but it's Pasha. Actually, that gets caught by Dash, traded back, at least in body count, and there's always finding dots. Suddenly, that has flipped over, and there's not a kill over the gap next, so instead they're just going to pull themselves back out. Lobin and Dodes, they've doubled themselves up here towards 90, with Dash not too far away, but always he's starting to eye up the site on the far side, making his way towards AC.
Yeah, VP get those trades because they're stacked on the same side, on this eastern side. Again, first couple of rounds on the attack from w7m, they weren't playing in that fashion. When they started to do that, that's when they started to get some results, but VP doing it from the get-go helps them out in this scenario. 4v3. Dash is just going to jump out of archives and see if he can find something, but doesn't initially. He knows there is obviously one close by. Dan on the balcony with the kit. But playing the Blackbeard, he's not going to be an easy one to shoot out anyway.
Now, the fact that Volps is gone means they don't really have any throwables to stop this. Maybe the Pocket Goyo canister will come into play at some point. Doubt it, though. I'd be surprised. Can't quite throw that, but you might be able to throw a fight. Shepard does. Caught out by Dash on the window he's been hopping in and out of, and suddenly it's an even man count. And, well, they have 47 seconds, and always is on a crouch walk towards the back end of the site. But at this point, you're thinking, well, why don't you try and just eke in a bit of coverage here? Dodas gets joystick as well. A 4-2 balance now is just the two very separated Virtus.pro players. They've pieced themselves back in here. Punch a small hole and an angle, but you have to give credit to the coverage because there's another Dash with a triple, and
they know he's top metal now. The barbed wire gives away the position. You can see Dodes inside a fountain just immediately turns his attention. The pressure just comes towards him straight away, and Dodos will finish him off. And w7m clinical when they were under a little bit of pressure. It was a 4v3 in favor of Virtus.pro. But VP just hesitated. It's almost as if they didn't really know how to finish off the round.
I mean, I think that's it, right? We obviously have everything, we can see everything, but Virtus.pro, they'd got that body advantage, they'd put the pressure on towards Office, and the structure that w7m had taken there was, right, well, we'll keep one here around the CC90 swing, we'll keep one here on the back of Fountain, and we'll put one in towards Archives. That way it's sort of a line fight. We know if they're going to come from either way, but I mean, what the approach was there from Virtus.pro was they separated themselves out. They gave w7m in these sort of defended positions, individual 1 versus 1s, rather than moving on the back. And I guess my biggest query of that is what the fear was onto entering the site itself. When you open up the office wall, you know that there's a player in Archives because they have actively been jumping out of the window itself. It seemed like they wanted to be a focus, but I don't know. We're not in their comms. We don't have the full clarity. And as you said, just a bit of a failure to land.
Well, it's just off of what we can kind of see, especially on the top-down view. And, you know, so it's a minute 50 when it's a 4v3. And then a full minute passes by and it's still a 4v3. At that point, you haven't played. What have you actually accomplished within those 60 seconds to put yourself in an even better position to then go on and win that round? I don't think they did enough in that time frame. Then the final 40-50 seconds arrives, the first push comes through, bam, kill for w7m. Now it's all tied up. Now you don't have map control. Now you don't have good sight, execution position. w7m go and win the round, and it's now their 3rd round in a row. And dare I say, it's again shaping up to be that similar nature to Montreal, where when it comes down to the end of a series, a long series, you question the stamina of Virtus.pro because it's happening again where they're just letting their opponent get away on that 3rd and final map.
w7m, only 2 rounds separate them from being able to pull at least the win here today, pull themselves the 3 points and make more of a statement towards their chance at getting towards the top of the group and getting in towards that bye position. But Virtus.pro aren't a million miles away. It was traded on opening half, but now on the other side of their timeout, all we have ahead of us is the game to be played. Some pressure on towards the bottom of East Stairs across waiting as they're eyeing up what is a wider hold here from the side of w7m. We've complimented their mobility before, and there's probably going to be the same sort of setup here at this point. They'll pull themselves back after the attention of CC. They're trying to bait them into the player tucked behind the monitors in the corner, maybe draw some attention away from Break, but, well, there's a player that slips by that they don't quite get the grasp on. A minute and a Blackbeard saying hello means that the 2 players stuck in this situation, well, they're actually going to give themselves just a tiny bit more width. But look at this, all 5 Virtus.pro players trying to encircle and catch Dodas, who's about to be under a bit of damage. There's at least 3 players from w7m offering some support and offering some coverage here at this point, but everybody seems to be wanting to show up to this violent party.
Yeah, I mean, they are certainly bringing numbers over to help. Volps, of course, can drop if he really feels the pressure, but I think he wanted to stay to help Dodas, but by staying, he loses his life. Opening kill goes away. Pasha, who then gets the second. Dodas went for the swing. And that's a lovely double, and Dan to triple it down for Virtus.pro in terms of their advantage. It's been a couple of rounds of quietness from Virtus.pro, but they are noisy in this one. Flawless, great response, and certainly needed it at this point in the series. It was just starting to feel like it was getting away from them. 3 in a row to w7m, all the momentum. and VP at least get a very quick round back. 4-5. It almost doesn't even feel like we played the 9th round, now heading into the 10th very quickly after.
It's the fun thing about it that it was a bathroom round. You couldn't have been further away from where the site is for what was at least 4 bodies that were taken in exchange in that situation. The long watch there over the top of East as well, and it sort of shows what Border is like. It shows how the game can be played, and you know, I mean,
the idea is you're just kind of gravitating the defense as to where the attackers are.
Yeah.
If you've got like 4 attackers outside security, you have that information, and you know when it comes to bathroom, you want to kind of keep that top floor control to deny the vert. You're going to bring bodies over to stop that entry, force them to go elsewhere. And where else do you really want to then go? Because you kind of want that top floor entry. So I don't think there was anything wrong with the way that w7m positioned. Virtus.pro just hit their shots.
4-5. The divide, only the single round now, and obviously with being able to tie 3 rounds in a row, w7m, that streak broken. Virtus.pro just as able at this point. They've kind of got to get this one nailed onto it. Vent, where always pulled off a magic trick, got the kit down inside the site, and the difference was a couple of seconds towards the end of it being flipped round the other way. And as the drone rolls in and gets itself its own pockets of information, you assume he's not going to be able to make a walk from Passport, as it happened before, but hey, may as well open the option. You can come back to it later. Gets the angle on towards the bottom of East Stairs in case somebody tries to flee. There's a chance at pressure being in that situation, whether they get caught out or not. There's the top pressure. Again, forcing out. And remember last time we were here, there was a heavy dedication towards East Stairs. This time, Virtus.pro, it seems the conversation is widen the net a little. Let's see if we can try and force them out into the back of somebody else. Dan really wants an engagement that Dodes keeps offering to people nearby. And if an Oryx wants to go up against the shield, there's often not a lot that stops them.
Dash is the only one that's basically playing site. 4 hold up above for w7m, so it's a 4-1 split. In theory, not too much different to pretty much the previous round in a lot of the posturing and the positioning setup, security, 90 control, w7m, 90 seconds left in the round. So not a lot has really necessarily taken place inside of this 10th round.
Solis doesn't know, always gets the down, and then once again, he snuck his way into a power position and made use of it, but he instantly pulls himself out, hops out the window and rotates. They have a lot of time, and this gives them the go-ahead as Dan screams his way into the top of the stairs and starts to open and get rid of the utility nearby. Now, eyes on towards office. The verticality that was almost the cost in the play later on, the breach is put in, and they can start to play themselves against it. A smoke canister will force them, but, well, they've done the work they need to. They've made it uncomfortable. Smashes his way in towards the side. They're eyeing up that shield on the back. The chance at the plant tucked in, and yeah, the verticality isn't entirely theirs, but can they get the coverage to make it happen? Last time, well, they weren't really paying keen enough attention.
Yeah, but they haven't cleared out enough on the top floor with 40 seconds remaining. If Dan pushes in towards the site, there's no vert hold at all from the attacker, and Loban gets rid of Shepard, one of the only members that was actually looking to contest up above. This is not going to be an easy round for Virtus.pro. 4v4, you haven't got top floor control. How are you going to plan into site safely? He finds a spot into workshop. So far, no response from w7m. Despite the fact that there's so many players up above, they find no way in which to be able to deny Dan the ability to get that diffuser onto the floor. Becomes a 3 versus 1 with 2 quick kills from Dan, and always Volts needs to find 2 more after that kill onto Dan. The Nitrocell desperately thrown, tries to maybe draw them out by getting onto that kid. Can he find a way to open up this wall, stick it long arm of the law? Always is watching. 2 in a row for Virtus.pro.
Well, they didn't miss that shutdown there. They took their time. You said, you know, they're opening the vertical, but they didn't stick around to find out. A bit of an easy take there as Loban looked like he started to want to strike back in, but Dan made sure that they pushed amongst that. The little pocket, that little corner where they got the plant. As I said, when you've got the shield, you can utilize that to give yourself some coverage. And this first take, again, always sneaking in, finding a first engagement, removing a Solace to read that across. Pasha having the coverage again on that vertical. There's the trade down, the doubling up. We haven't always seen. And Dan making that coverage work. We're tied up.
They had no one above, and yet they go and find, I say they, I mean, Dan goes and finds a spot inside a workshop where there was...
Twice they've had no one above and been able to get a plant on that site.
I mean, maybe W7M have to really look at their strategy when it comes to defending Vent Workshop. 5-5, all tied up, and this is definitely what I would consider improved Virtus.pro now compared to Montreal, because last time out they just let W7M run over them to close it out. It was 3-3, then all of a sudden it was 3-7. W7M moved on to the grand final. Well, now here is that response from Virtus.pro. They haven't given up. They still have enough firepower to be able to continue keeping this pressure on W7M. Again, if VP win this map, well, it doesn't confirm them first, it all but sets them up with a huge chance to claim first in the group. They play Scars tomorrow, and they will definitely go into that as heavy favor. Swing from Loban, though, shuts down Dan. Trade towards top waiting from Always is quick. With the entry towards top east stairs complete, at the very least, Loban does not get away, but arguably a huge kill, not just onto the player who beat Dan, but the Blackbeard operator too, taken off the board for this 11th round.
How will they operate without the Blackbeard that's been so instrumental as a just solution to the problems being posed at them here by W7M? It will be the attempt at the Nomad, get the air jabs out, control some of the space behind them. To be honest, W7M have been more than happy to charge their way through. The ex-Kairos being shot off by the player inside office. So those, a little bit of wasted utility. They're going to have to try and clear out that position first. Scraps of damage done. Dodes slips his way on out. There's crossing paths, and pings at least towards the presence of the players down on Passport. But otherwise, it's the situation of Virtus.pro where you're going to go at this point, maybe leave, but Dots does have some of the cover. Always gets caught out. He's as close as he could possibly be, and it only takes a second to slip your way over. It might also bait them into the other player tucked in the corner, but here comes Joystick, getting the cover on that motion. They know, though, Dodes opens up the angle, making a lot of noise. Can Joystick get this first?
Dodes has no idea. He looks away. The timing is just paramount. 3-on-2. A little bit of drone information here for Pasha. But the diffuser's in a bad spot. And certainly time as well on the side of W7M being on the defense, and 2 Nitrocells Emmy. That's a powerful amount of utility remaining for the defenders heading into the final stages of this 11th round. Huge shot from Dash, no chance for Pasha, and arguably little chance for Shepard.
They pulled themselves back to the site as soon as they got themselves into the 3 versus 2. They did not risk anything. W7M, they headed home and they said, come and find us here. Dash gets the final kill secured, 6-5. They are 1 round away from confirming themselves the winners of this showdown, confirming themselves some precious, precious points. But at the same time, as we have been for most of this, their opponents are not that far away. We are just as close to overtime.
Oh, it's been a fantastic series, and I think overtime would actually be just reward. And Dodes, I mean, that's just unfortunate timing. He was watching that on and off for a long period of time, and as that creep up did come through eventually, that's when he looks away. Match point, W7M. 7-4 on Club, 7-3 on Skyscraper to Virtus.pro. And 6-5 now here on Border. VP looking to send this one to overtime. Bathroom and Tellers for the final round of regulation. My takeaway, though, again from this series is there's really not a lot separating these two teams.
Not at all.
There's not much in it. On your given day, 5-10% on or off. And that's probably going to be your difference. You know, VP, if these two were to play again and VP on that day are like maybe 10-15% off their game, W7M will win, and vice versa.
It's the kind of game where you're like, I need to see this again on a stage. And even though we've seen it on a stage not too long ago, I want to see it again on a stage. The level is the same. You want to see these two teams, and we probably will, let's be honest, see these two teams fighting each other on another stage, because they just improve and improve and improve. The performance and the stress and the sort of excitement and the energy and how edge of your seat you are continues to grow. At this point, the approach round on the other side, they've gone back to their sort of classic roots here with the, the Sense played alongside the Blackbeard. It was similar to their approaches on the previous map that worked out well for them, but I think a lot of the pressure, unfortunately, is on the shoulders of Dan, because he's just been so instrumental in driving VP into this showdown.
And it didn't help in the previous round that he lost his life early again, losing Dan, losing the Blackbeard. Straight in towards top east stairs. They've brought the Sens this round as well with Pasha. Well, there is one that's just gripped up east stairs. Dash has timed Dan perfectly. He gave it a little bit of a glimpse. He looked at it temporarily, then looked back away, and with that shield no longer then protecting him, he loses his life. Always, though, in towards Talons. They're going for the fast hit. This could be a quick finish to this series as Dots will shut down Always. The kit's in a bad way, and so is Virtus.pro with just over a minute left to try and salvage this round. It's down to Shepard, Pasha, and Joystick. There's one more required. But with that kill, you could look to slow things down just a little bit. Joystick up above, top floor. But obviously, again, the defuse is already within the site. W7m now can play off of that entirely. Their focus will be towards the site. Loben in Archives, the only one top floor for W7m. There's another through Joystick, but Loben gets the trade. He was lurking inside of Archives the entire time. Advantage once again to W7m. Loben still from above. Shuts down Shepard and Pasha. Now in that 1 versus 3 to see if he can make a moment here at SI and make it his moment. It will have to be a huge one. 25 seconds. As the ROU goes out, his chances are slim, marginal. Drop down inside a bathroom, the peak from Loben. Collects all 3 at the end to wrap it up for W7m. They've done it again. They take down Virtus.pro in 3 maps.
Great adaptations there. You saw how much it meant. We were talking the importance of the Blackbeard and the take. Though it was perfect from the single player, 2 more screamed in as soon as they heard that pressure. Then, quick response to a planter, the things we said that they were struggling with before, they locked it in and locked Virtus.pro out. You said it. Once again, they are falling to W7m, but brilliant play from both. Let's go to a break and give ourselves a breather.